In this ninja world, I'm the one in charge now. Uzumaki Naraku. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201. Transplant him with 1 point of first generation cells. In the clan territory of the Thousand Hands clan, just as Kakashi rushed to the border again, Naraku also ended his training for the day. Sure enough, using shadow clones to practice will consume mental energy. Naraku reached out and rubbed his swollen eyebrows. Today he tried using a shadow clone to speed up the recovery of his eyes. Although he now has a headache, the effect is very obvious. If he had been concentrating magic chakra to restore his eyes as before, today's progress would have taken him a whole day. After the training, Naraku got up and returned to his room. Kindness. Suddenly, he frowned and murmured in his mouth, "Destroy Tsunagakure village." It seems that Sister Tsunade's plan is about to begin. The corners of Naraku's mouth raised slightly, revealing a meaningful smile. At the same time, at the entrance of Konoha village, Uchiha Itachi and 2 other jonin set off with 2 people respectively. Their goal was to monitor the movements of Kumogakure, Kirigakure, and Iwa Ninja in the Sand Hidden village. "Sister, do we really no longer have anything to do with matters in Tsunagakure village?" Ibizo asked Chiyo in front of him, and a worried tone came from his mouth. Ibizo, as the elder of Tsunagakure village, although he has retired on the surface, he still cares about Tsunagakure village in his heart. Facing her brother's inquiry, Chiyo looked grave. It wasn't that she didn't want to get involved in the affairs of Tsunagakure village, but that Tsunagakure village was no longer something he could control. A few years ago, Rasa had controlled all the forces in Sand Hidden village. Thanks to the often violent one, the reputation of the 4th Kazekage had even surpassed that of the first 2 Kazekages in some aspects. Even if Chiyo comes out again now, he is still a low-key person and cannot influence any of Alyosha's decisions. If it were in the past, when the 3rd generation of Konoha village was in power, if Rasa had said that he would lead Tsunagakure to attack Konoha, Chiyo would definitely be the first to stand up and support him. Chiyo was also full of hatred for Konoha, but now she no longer had such thoughts. Chiyo, who had fought against Tsunade Senju on the battlefield, knew that this woman was definitely not simple. She even had a feeling that Sand Hidden village was about to be destroyed. After much hesitation, Chiyo decided to do something, and a look of determination appeared on her face. Then she and Ibizo left Sand Hidden village and rushed towards the border of the Kingdom of Wind. Boom, boom, boom. Several figures fell to the ground, causing a burst of dust. Only a pair of scarlet eyes showed a fierce light. Has Tsunagakure village united with Kirigakure village? Shisu murmured in his mouth, and then his eyelids trembled slightly. His scarlet eyes disappeared, and a trace of thinking flashed in his dark eyes. Then he looked down at the people lying on the ground, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Puff, puff, puff. Lines of blood splashed, and then he simply cleaned up the battlefield. After meeting Kei and the others, they rushed towards the border of the Kingdom of Fire, Hokage's office. Because Kakashi, who controlled the Flying Thunder God, was here, Tsunade here quickly learned about the alliance between Kirigakure village and Tsunagakure village. At this time, she frowned slightly. Although judging from the current combat power of Konoha village, it is not afraid at all, even if it faces the attacks of Tsunagakure and Kirigakure at the same time. But Tsunade knows that things will not be that simple. Konoha village has developed rapidly in recent years, especially the reputation of Kakashi's shining silver teeth, which has shocked the ninja world. Whether it's the Kumogakure village, where the tailed beast was taken away, or the Iwa Ninja village led by that old guy from the 3rd Tsuchikage. If a war broke out between Konoha and Kirigakure and Tsunagakure, 1 versus 2, Kumogakure and Iwagakure would never stand idly by. They will definitely unite and target Konoha together at that time. Even if Konoha village is powerful, it is still a bit far-fetched to fight 1 against 4 at the same time. After all, although Konoha village is very strong, the 4 major ninja villages are not weak if they unite. Tsunade knew in her heart that Konoha was not strong enough to fight 1 against 4, not to mention that there were many people secretly spying on the entire ninja world. The masked man who calls himself Madara and the force called the Akatsuki organization are all unstable factors. Tsunade was carefully thinking about ways to break the situation in her mind, while Jiraiya and Narashikaku were also in the office helping her think about countermeasures. Lord Hokage. At this moment, Shikaku's voice sounded in the room, and he already had a countermeasure in mind for having the brains of a military advisor. Hearing this voice, Tsunade and Jiraiya turned their heads and laid their eyes on Shikaku. A glimmer of anticipation flashed in their eyes for Shikaku. What they trust in their hearts is not only his loyalty, but also recognition of his abilities. And Shikaku's next words did not disappoint both Tsunade and Tsunade. Sure enough, we must use the power of thunder. Tsunade secretly thought in her heart. After she and Shikaku discussed the next deployment, she got up and returned to the Senju clan's territory, a cave near Kirigakure village. Wearing a tiger-striped mask, only the scarlet right eye exposed, was emitting a dazzling red light. At this time, Obito was carefully looking at a figure in front of him. He has long black hair, a somewhat crazy expression, and a pair of black dot patterns in his scarlet eyes. It was Uchiha Sasuke who he brought from the Uchiha clan. Obito is no stranger to the Mangekyou Sharingan, and even now he considers himself to be the person most familiar with the Sharingan in the ninja world. Although this sentence is a bit arrogant, it is not unfounded. He can use the Mangekyou Sharingan almost unlimitedly, and he is more than just familiar with it. The reason why Obito brought Zuosuke back here was mainly because of the ability of his Mangekyou Sharingan. What is known so far is that his right eye can control some rocks and give them explosive properties. As for the specific extent of what he can achieve, Obito still doesn't know. Of course, this ability is not what he really cares about. What he cared about was the ability of Zuosuke's left eye, and he felt a familiar aura in his left eye. Lord Defy has brought his own people back. At this moment, a burst of laughter came, and a figure wrapped in a giant pitcher plant emerged from the mountain. Under the pitch giant plant was a body that was half black and half white. It was Zetsu. Obito was not surprised by Zetsu's appearance. Zetsu's perception ability was ranked among the best in the entire ninja world. Obito did not think that he could escape his perception. You came just in time. Transplant some of the first generation cells into him so that he can become familiar with the capabilities of those eyes, came Obito's hoarse voice. Sure enough, it's because of the Mangekyou Sharingan. Chapter 202 New Space Ninjutsu. In the cave, Obito's request was never rejected. He found a clone of Zetsu, took an organ from the other person's body, and gave it to Obito. For Zetsu now, although Obito and his ideas have some differences, the two of them are still on the same front. Especially for Black Zetsu, if he wants to complete his plan, Obito is an indispensable link. So now that Obito wants to increase his side strength, he has no reason to refuse. Strengthening Obito's power is strengthening his own power, and he has no reason to refuse. And another point is that the first generation cells decomposed from Beiju's body have been manipulated by Ju. If he wants, he can destroy those cells at any time. It's just a pity for Black Zetsu that they only mastered this method after Madara's death, which means that the first generation cells in Obito's body are relatively pure. What is this? After Zuosuke here got used to the pain in his eyes for a while, he raised his head and looked at the white substance that Obito handed over with his hand and frowned slightly. For some reason, Zuosuke felt an inexplicable attraction to this white substance, as if the white substance was part of his body. Snapped. Obito didn't answer his words, but directly threw the white substance in his hand onto Zuosuke. Almost instantly, the white substance that fell on Zuosuke's body was like a small insect, squirming quickly and finally got into Zuosuke's clothes. The next moment, Zuosuke only felt a numb feeling coming from his body. What he didn't notice was that the white substance was drilling into his body along the pores of his body. After a while, the white substance completely dissipated. Instead, there was a white mark on Zuosuke's chest, which looked like a huge birthmark. At this time, Zuosuke closed his eyes. At this time, he clearly felt a powerful energy in his body. But what is strange is that Zuosuke does not feel any rejection of this energy. On the contrary, he feels that his blood is boiling, as if he welcomes this special energy. Zuosuke even felt that his eyes, which were in severe pain just now, no longer felt such strong pain, and the pain was slowly decreasing. Such a discovery made Zuosuke look excited. As he gradually used the first generation cells in his body, the pain in his eyes completely disappeared. Thank you, Mr. Rafei. After his body gradually adapted, Zuosuke stood up and bowed to Obito in front of him. Now he knows very well that all the elders in the Uchiha clan have been extinct, and even his grandfather, the great elder, has entered the grave. Now Zuosuke wants to survive, grow in strength, and then return to Konoha village to take revenge. He wants to kill all the clan leaders to avenge his family. If he wanted to increase his strength, Obito in front of him was undoubtedly the best choice. The little white substance the other party had just given him had strengthened his body a lot. I want to become as powerful as Uchiha Madara, Zuosuke secretly vowed in his heart. Poor Uchiha, just be my pawn. Seeing the changes at Uchiha Sasuke in front of him, Obito secretly thought in his heart, and then the hoarse voice came out of his mouth again. Show me the power of your main Gekai Sharingan, Uchiha Sasuke. Zuosuke heard this without any hesitation. He raised his legs and took a step back. His scarlet eyes appeared, and the next moment, a pattern similar to a black windmill appeared in his scarlet eyes. The familiar pain reappeared, but maybe because he already had the first generation cells in his body, the pain was not as strong as before. Then Zuosuke began to explode with eye power, and a stream of bloody tears fell from his right eye. Call out, call out, call out. In an instant, several sounds of breaking through the air were heard, and then several fist-sized stones were seen floating in the air. Zuosuke, who had done this, turned to look at Obito. Continue. A hoarse voice came out. Hearing this, a trace of hesitation flashed in Zuosuke's eyes. If he continued, his newly recovered eye power would be exhausted again. However, after a brief hesitation, a stern look appeared on Zuosuke's face. He knew that now was the time to prove his worth, and he could not back down. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the sound of explosions came, and the stones exploded instantly, and the huge impact spread in all directions. Rock blast. Zuosuke let out a low shout. This was the name he gave this move. As the name suggests, stone explosion means that you can control the explosion of stones. Try the power of your left eye. Obito's hoarse voice came. Perhaps he was afraid that Zuosuke hadn't recovered yet, but a ball of white substance appeared in his hand, and he threw it directly at him like last time on the body. After Zuosuke closed his eyes and absorbed the first generation cells, he once again felt that his strength had increased slightly, and even his pupil power had recovered a lot. A look of excitement appeared on his face, and then a powerful life force burst out from his body, and a stream of bloody tears flowed from his left eye. Then a spatial vortex visible to the naked eye appeared on his body. Sure enough, the ability of the left eye is related to space. Obito's only exposed right eye narrowed slightly. In fact, the reason why Obito brought Zuosuke back was because he realized that his kaleidoscope ability might be related to space. It is space ninjutsu. Obito, who masters the power of Kamu, knows the power of space ninjutsu better than anyone else. Whether it is him, the yellow flash, that made people change their color during the Third War, or the ninja world, that has resounded in recent years. Silver Teeth Flash. They rely on time and space ninjutsu. Especially Obito himself. He knows very well that, if he loses his divine power now, his strength will be far from cage level. It actually comes with space type abilities. Ju's eyes showed a hint of shock at this time, which he did not expect. Especially Black Zetsu, who has lived for nearly 1,000 years, and has seen dozens of pairs of Manjaki Sharingan eyes, but there are not many eyes with space ninjutsu. Even including the current Obito, there are only a few. On the field, after the space vortex completely wrapped Zuosuke's body, his body completely disappeared. The next moment, Obito seemed to notice something. He turned his head and looked aside. He could see the space there rippling like a tide. Then a space vortex appeared, and then Zuosuke appeared there. Haha. But he didn't seem to be feeling well at this time, and his face was covered with sweat as he was breathing heavily. It's just that I can move to places I've been to before. A trace of imperceptible joy flashed in Obito's eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 Tsunade's Plan, Beheading Operation. In the clan of the Thousand Hands clan, Naraku, who was sleeping soundly, seemed to have noticed something. He stood up from the bed suddenly, and his face became tense, but his frown relaxed the next moment. At this time, a silver-haired figure can be seen outside the room, the border of the Fire Nation. There was a sudden spatial sway in the otherwise silent night sky, and then two figures appeared here. Judging from the hair color, one red and one silver, they were Naraku and Kakashi. Aha, aha. As soon as they arrived here, two figures emerged from the darkness. Their green training uniforms were still dazzling under the moonlight, and they had barb-like hairstyles. They were Shizu and K. After the four people gathered together, they didn't say much. They already knew the plan for tonight. Now that everyone was here, they started taking action directly. Shadow. Clone technique. Kakashi formed a seal with one hand, and then several more figures appeared on the field. After leaving these shadow clones here, the four of them set off together. I haven't done anything for a long time. I hope you won't disappoint me. Naraku, who was following Shizu, thought to himself. At the same time, in the territory of the Thousand Hands clan. Although it was already late at night, neither Tsunade nor Jiraiya fell asleep. They sat in a pavilion in the courtyard and blew the cool breeze. After tonight, the fourth Kazekage of Sunagakure village will disappear completely, Tsunade secretly thought in her heart. The reason why Kakashi took Naraku away was her plan. Although Naraku's eyes had not yet recovered, Tsunade knew that even without his eyes, his strength was still at the cage level. Even Tsunade herself is not sure that she can defeat Naraku without eyes one-on-one. Although he has no eyes, Naraku, who has Kaguya's heart eye, can also perceive any energy. In addition, he has mastered those ninjutsu now. In some aspects, Naraku is not weaker even compared to Kakashi. Coupled with the assistance of Shizu and Kei, the four of them can definitely complete the task. Complete the beheading mission she ordered. Kill the fourth Kazekage. Rata, this is the order given by Tsunade to Kakashi. As for Naraku, it can be regarded as reinforcement lent to him by Tsunade, but only for a limited time. After tonight, regardless of whether Kakashi succeeds or not, Naraku will be recalled to Konoha by her. She will not let the current Naraku be exposed too much in the ninja world. After all, there are many enemies in the dark that need to be careful. But Tsunade believed in her heart that Kakashi and the others would succeed this time. Jiraiya on the side also believed in Naraku and Kakashi. The rapid growth of Kakashi and the others made Jiraiya have the idea of retiring. He turned to look at Tsunade side, and everywhere he looked was, boom, Jiraiya, you pervert. In the clan of the Uchiha clan, master, clan leader, Uchiha Itachi brutally murdered everyone in the elder lineage. It is no longer suitable for him to be listed as the young clan leader. I suggest that your second son, Uchiha Sasuke, be elected as the young clan leader. Lake Uchiha knelt on one knee and said to Fugaku in front of him in a firm tone. Fugaku wanted to say something about this, but he couldn't say anything. Lake Uchiha was his confidant, and Fugaku had to listen to his words. However, Fugaku was extremely unwilling to cancel the position of Itachi's clan leader. In fact, he could think of why Itachi would kill those elders. As the leader of a clan, he also understood the principle of eradicating the roots. Itachi just did what he wanted to do but couldn't. Itachi. Fugaku murmured in his heart, feeling very sorry for his outstanding eldest son. But in the end, he compromised and agreed to Lake Uchiha's request, but only after Sasuke officially became a ninja, and his identity as the young clan leader would not be officially announced. Fugaku knows very well that, now that the elders have been wiped out, and the Uchiha clan's vitality has been greatly damaged, their clan needs unity now. He doesn't want a second elder to appear, so there are some things that, even if he doesn't want to in his heart, he still has to do it compromise. But for Itachi, Fugaku believed that he would have better development without the constraints of the Uchiha clan. Itachi is a truly peaceful person with great love in his heart. If the time is right for such a person, he will definitely accomplish something. The border of the Kingdom of Wind, where the ninja army of Sunagakure village is stationed. Under the leadership of Zissou, The 4 Narakus arrived here quickly. The number of these ninjas is really quite large. Naraku, who had opened Kaguya's inner eye, felt more than 2000 chakra fluctuations in the camp in front of him. Although these people were not very strong, their number was indeed not small. However, this did not deter the 4 of them. On the contrary, they were very excited. For them who are in their youth, being able to let go and fight, especially with those who are stronger than themselves, will be of great benefit to them. Of course, the latter sentence is no longer true. After all, no one in Luosha's group is stronger than them. Even Kei, who is not good at ninjutsu, may not be his opponent if he breaks out with all his strength. Now that we have found our target, let's get started, Naraku murmured. Then he took a step forward, while Kakashi and the other 3 took a step back, giving him enough room to play. I saw Naraku forming seals with his hands, and then shouted loudly, "The art of multiple shadow clones." Next moment, point, boom, boom, boom. A large cloud of white smoke appeared, covering the entire area, and then hundreds of figures appeared on the field point. Although the number is not as exaggerated as Naruto's, it is still a challenge for Naraku to separate so many shadow clones at once. In fact, according to the order given to them by Tsunade, they only need to deal with Rasa. As for the 2000 strong Tsunagakure army, they can ignore it for the time being. But Naraku felt that, since he was here, he had to do something big, and he also wanted to get used to the side effects of using shadow clones. After all, he would use this ninjutsu often in the future. So after discussing with Kakashi and others, their plan was for Naraku alone to contain the ninja army in Tsunagakure village, while Kakashi and others went to carry out the beheading operation. If things go well, the 3rd generation, Danzo and others will be solved together, but if there are any changes, the 4th Kazekage must also disappear completely. Perhaps it was because Naraku's creation of hundreds of shadow clones caused too much noise, and the people in Tsunagakure village were already aware of it. Eluosha appeared in front of several people with a gloomy face. Chapter 204. It's really not over, you guys. Aha. Aha. After Eluosha, 2 more figures flashed out, one on the left, and one on the right standing beside him. Even though he couldn't see it with his eyes, Naraku could still identify their identities from the auras of these 2 people. It was Danzo and the 3rd generation. Uzumaki Naraku, Hatake Kakashi, Metke, and Uchiha Shisu saw their former subordinates standing on the opposite side of themselves, and the 3 generations did not feel any waves in their hearts. He had already anticipated all this. Even if Kakashi and the others did not appear here, one day they would fight in the Leaf Village. On Danzo's part, when he saw Naraku with his eyes closed, the face of the Uzumaki Tensei began to distort. Uzumaki Naraku. Danzo always felt extremely resentful towards Naraku who killed him. Just when he was about to attack Naraku, a green figure appeared in front of him. It was Kei. At this moment, Kei kicked out, and his right leg struck Danzo like a sharp axe. Seeing this familiar move again, Danzo's face instantly turned ugly, and then he quickly retreated in a flash. While retreating, he raised his hands and began to form seals quickly. Wind escape, vacuum waves. Danzo waved with one hand, and the air instantly rolled, and a dozen invisible wind blades formed. Kai. The next moment, these wind blades tore through the air and struck hard at Kei. Open the door, close the door, leave the door, open. Kei let out a low shout, and then a violent energy burst out from his body instantly. The huge impact directly blew away the wind blades, and then he flashed and continued to attack Danzo. Just as the fight broke out between the 2, a silver-haired figure appeared in front of Rasa through the air. It was Kakashi, and he was holding a silver longsword in his hand. Kai. A sound broke through the air, and a silver sword light burst out from the longsword. Kakashi, who was holding the long sword, had a shadow in his eyes, as if the man and the sword were one. Shattered Sky. The first style of Hatake knife technique. Faced with this move, Eluosha did not dare to be careless at all. Chakra surged from his body, and a ball of placer gold burst out of the ground, and the placer gold instantly submerged his figure. Stab it. The silver sword light struck heavily on the sand gold, and in an instant, a large appeared mouth on the sand gold, but Eluosha's figure had disappeared. At this moment, Kakashi seemed to notice something. He formed a seal with one hand and suddenly disappeared from the place. Then a ball of placer gold suddenly came out of the ground and submerged an area of him. Luosha's figure appeared on the other side. But at this time, his face was ugly and an ominous feeling arose in his heart. However, Kakashi didn't give him much time to react. Blue light flashed on his body, and he held a long sword and fought with Rasa again. Shizu on the other side was holding a tachi, his eyes scarlet, staring at the thin figure in front of him. Exactly 3 generations without too many words, the two of them exchanged hands with each other with swords and sticks. In the past few years, Shizu rarely left the village to perform tasks. Most of the time, he practiced in the village, so his strength now has improved a lot compared to a few years ago. But he is not the only one who has improved. The 3rd generation of 1st generation cells transplanted into his body. After 3 years of adaptation, his strength has gradually returned to its peak. The two of them were going back and forth for a while, and it was difficult to tell the winner in a short period of time. You guys play slowly first, and when I get down, go down and make a big fuss, Naraku murmured. Then he led hundreds of shadow clones and rushed towards the camp of Sunagakure village. Enemy. Attack. Everyone in Sunagakure, who had already been on alert, immediately spotted Naraku's figure. You want to challenge our Sunagakure army all by yourself? Even if you are a genius in Konoha, you are still a little too arrogant. In the camp, a middle-aged man wearing a Jounin uniform had a look of anger on his face after seeing Naraku rushing towards them at high speed. Even though their Sunagakure village was not strong, he couldn't bear to be provoked like this. But even if he felt angry, he did not lose his mind. As a Jounin who participated in the 3rd Ninja War, he knew very well that staying rational on the battlefield was the best way to save his life. All wind escape ninjas, come out. He raised his head and shouted loudly using chakra to wrap around his throat. Almost instantly, hundreds of people rushed out of the team and stood at the front of the camp, and then they began to form seals quickly at the same time. Wind escape, a big breakthrough. Immediately afterwards, 100 people collectively shouted loudly, and they all opened their mouths and spit out a blast of wind. The strong winds gathered together and instantly formed a rotating storm tornado. Call. The tornado roared and rushed straight ahead at great speed. Haha, it's really interesting. They actually know how to use ninjutsu together. Naraku, who noticed the movement in front, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and then he stood in the front in a flash. Naraku stretched out his hands, palms facing outward. The next moment call out, call out. 2 piercing sounds sounded, and then a blue ball of light appeared simultaneously on his left and right palms. The blue light ball rotates at a very fast speed, and then kai sound comes from the light ball. You can see several invisible wind blades appearing around the light ball. At this time, the light ball looks like a ball that is continuing to rotate. The same as the shuriken, Rasen. Shuriken. Naraku murmured in his mouth, and then he threw his hands forward one after another, throwing 2 spiral shurikens instantly, tearing through the air and rushing towards the tornado in front of him at high speed. Boom, boom. 2 air explosions were heard, and the spiral shuriken and the tornado collided heavily. A huge hole appeared on the tornado visible to the naked eye, and its direction of rotation began to change, slowly heading towards Sunagakure. Wind escape, a big breakthrough. But at this moment, there was another shout of assembly, and the hundreds of people opened their mouths again and spit out a ball of violent wind. The violent wind and the tornado converged together, and in an instant, the tornado rushed towards Naraku again. It's really not fun anymore, you guys. Naraku frowned slightly when he felt the energy fluctuations, and then he retreated in a flash. If that's the case, let's defeat it all at once. Aha. 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 In an instant, a dozen red-haired figures appeared in front of them, and they were Naraku's shadow clones. Next moment, Rasen. Shuriken. These dozen shadow clones shouted lowly at the same time, and for a moment, the air in this area fluctuated like a tide. Kai. 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 The wind blade cut the air, and the next moment, these shadow clones all raised their hands, and then threw the shurikens in their hands. Chapter 205. This guy has no eyesight. In the camp of Sunagakure village, after more than a dozen spiral shurikens landed on the huge tornado at the same time, the 2 wind attributed energies collided heavily. Boom. a loud noise came, and at this moment, even the space seemed to be stagnant for a moment, but the next moment the powerful impact burst out like a flood that burst a dam. Boom, boom. Under the bombardment of this energy, everyone in the Sunagakure village standing in the front row instantly flew backwards behind him. Kainson's face gradually turned ugly when he saw this scene. He did not expect that the wind escape ninjutsu used by hundreds of ninjas could be broken by him alone. Just when he was about to issue an order for everyone to respond. Boom. At this moment, a loud noise came, and a red-haired figure was seen standing in the camp of Sand-Hidden Village. The man's eyes were closed, and he looked very strange. The person who came was none other than Naraku. He showed up at the Sunagakure camp without any nervousness. On the contrary, there was a touch of excitement on his face. It was the first time for Naraku to face so many ninjas at the same time. In addition, he had not let go and fought for a long time. Today, he could make a big fuss. Damn Konoha ninja, kill him. At this moment, an angry shout sounded, and then a flashing green shuriken rushed straight towards Naraku. It was obvious that this shuriken was smeared with poison. Sunagakure village is good at using puppets and poison techniques, which is well known in the ninja world. During the Third Ninja War, Sunagakure side used poison on Konoha. If Tsunade hadn't cracked Sunagakure's poison at that time, Konoha would not have been able to defeat Sunagakure village. On the field. Even though Naraku, who didn't see the poison on the shuriken, he still wouldn't let the shuriken touch his body. Wow. 8 chains protruded from his back, with Naraku as the center, and chains as thick as an adult's arm rushed towards the surroundings. Clang. Then the shuriken that rushed towards he was directly deflected by the chain. Aha. Just when Naraku used the diamond chain to explode, except for the shadow clones that had just been dissipated by using the Rasen shuriken, nearly 100 remaining shadow clones all rushed into the camp. Some of them used diamond chains, and some used ninjutsu, and began to destroy the camp. With Naraku's current strength, even a shadow clone is no weaker than an elite jonin. It can even be said that, with the exception of Rasa and the others, there is almost no one in Sunagakure's army who can stand up to Naraku's shadow clone one-on-one. Suddenly a riot began in the Sunagakure camp. Countless sand ninjas appeared and began to besiege the shadow clones, but the strength of the shadow clones was not weak. Except for a few unlucky ones, Naraku's shadow clones had almost no casualties. Naraku's body here is even more unstoppable. 8 thick golden chains surround his body. Once an enemy appears, the chains will automatically lock and quickly reach out to kill them. Not only that, Naraku sometimes releases some powerful ninjutsu to destroy Sunagakure's camp. Boom, boom, boom. Just a few loud noises were heard from the camp. Only a few minutes passed, and the originally neat camp was almost turned into ruins. These were all Naraku's handiwork. With his strength, he can be said to be unstoppable in the camp. Even if he is faced with the siege of several jonin at the same time, he can easily deal with it. But at this moment, Naraku seemed to have discovered something and stopped his advancing body. He frowned slightly. He discovered a violent energy in the camp. Naraku was very familiar with this energy. He knew it was the tailed beast chakra. Sarutobi Yiming. Naraku thought of this person who had appeared in Konoha village not long ago. He also knew the information that the other person became the Six-Tails Jinchuriki. Thinking of this, Naraku narrowed the perception range of Kaguya's inner eye and concentrated it on the Sunagakure camp. Come together and kill him. At this moment, the several Sunagakure jonin in front, who were fleeing, saw Naraku stop and thought that Naraku had consumed too much chakra and stopped chasing them. After simple eye contact, several people quickly formed seals with their hands and were about to attack Naraku. Call out, but at this moment, 2 sounds of breaking through the air were heard, and 2 golden chains were seen tearing through the air and appearing in front of several people in an instant. Puff, puff, then a cloud of blood mist appeared, and with a few bangs, several corpses fell to the ground. Got you, Naraku murmured, and then he turned around and rushed in the other direction. Call out, call out, call out. The golden chain sprang out, clearing obstacles in front of him. At this moment, with Naraku's body as the center, a vacuum zone was formed around him. No one in Sunagakure dared to approach him, and they kept a long distance away from him. It has been discovered. Sarutobi Yiming, who was hiding underground, knew that his whereabouts had been discovered after he noticed a powerful energy approaching him. In that case, let me see how powerful a genius even better than Kakashi is. A trace of madness flashed in Sarutobi Yiming's eyes. At this time, he had forgotten what Danzo told him to hide. Boom, boom. Just when Sarutobi Yiming was about to rush out of the ground, two thick golden chains penetrated into the ground and came to him in an instant. The speed is so fast. A hint of surprise flashed in Sarutobi Yiming's eyes, and then he no longer hesitated and rushed towards the ground in a flash. It's because you know you can't escape, so you're ready to come to the door automatically. Sensing the approaching breath of Sarutobi Yiming, Naraku murmured, and then under his control, the two golden chains that had penetrated into the ground returned to the ground. 8 golden chains swayed behind him, and some red liquid could be seen on the chains, which was the blood of Tsunagakure ninjas. It is no exaggeration to say that Naraku was like a god of death at this time, breaking into the enemy camp alone, but no one dared to get close to him. Boom. The sound of the ground cracking was heard, and then a thin figure emerged from the ground. It was Sarutobi Yiming. He was seen holding a long knife in his hand. The tip of the knife pointed at Naraku, and a fighting spirit rose in his eyes. Oh, does this mean I am weaker? Naraku noticed a hint of surprise on his face when he noticed the surge of aura from Sarutobi Uzumaki. Naraku didn't know much about Sarutobi Uzumaki. He only heard from Kakashi that this person had average talent and a very bad character. But now Naraku is going to add one more thing to him, that is, this guy has no eyesight. Chapter 206. For the sake of true peace, you must die today. Just when Naraku was making a big fuss in the camp, the battle here was equally fierce. Would escape. Violent gun tree. Danzo let out a low shout, then stretched out his right hand and pointed forward, and then a big tree suddenly rose up under K's feet. Facing this move, K didn't panic at all. Surrounded by green light, he exerted force on his feet, and his body instantly turned into a green shadow and rushed forward. While avoiding the attack of the big tree, he also launched another attack on Danzo. Attack point. At this time, Danzo's face became increasingly ugly. Although he had used some methods to improve his strength a lot in the past few years, he still felt very helpless when facing K again. Although he was very reluctant to admit it, Danzo knew very well that he was no match for K. Although he has infinite chakra and immortality, Danzo has a fatal weakness, that is, the host body Orochimaru uses for him is too weak. In the past few years, he has also looked for the other party, asking him to help him change his body to a stronger one, but for some reason, he could not find Orochimaru's whereabouts, as if the other party had disappeared in the ninja world. But there is another possibility. Orochimaru is avoiding him. Boom, boom. At this moment, two violent collisions came from the side. You can see a huge green skeletal figure there. It is Shizu Susanoo. At this time, his left eye was slightly closed, and there was a black four-cornered windmill pattern in his scarlet right eye. One-eyed Susan opposite him. The third generation held an iron rod transformed from the monkey demon in his hand. His old face full of caution. He had already fought Shizu 3 years ago, and knew the power of his Susanoo, so he did not dare to underestimate him. However, this time the third generation did not seem to intend to fight Shizu with all his strength. Shizu could feel that the third generation just wanted to hold him back. Are you waiting for something, or? A trace of thought flashed in Shizu's eyes, and then he controlled Susan to attack the third generation again. Not far away from them, a more intense battle was breaking out. Crack, crack. Blue arcs of electricity surrounded Kakashi's body, and the long knife in his hand was also covered with dense thunder and lightning. A violent and sharp aura emanated from Kakashi's body. Opposite him was Rasa, who had a frosty look on his face. He felt a strong killing intent in Kakashi's body. The target is me, Eluosha whispered in his heart, but then a sneer appeared on his face. Haha, young man. Suddenly, Eluosha opened his mouth and laughed, looking at Kakashi with cold eyes. Today I will let you see what the real Kazukichi is. Magnetic. Escape. Gold dust burial. A low shout came from Eluosha's mouth, and then he raised his hands, and then a ball of placer gold appeared at his feet. With the support of Shajin, Eluosha's body rose rapidly and finally stayed in midair. As for Kakashi, who wanted to stop Rata. He was entangled in dozens of balls of sand gold. Rumble. The next moment, there was a trembling sound from the ground, and then a large amount of placer gold came out of the ground. A large amount of placer gold appeared on the field, and then the placer gold covered Kakashi like a wave. In just an instant, Kakashi's body was submerged in gold dust, and he completely disappeared. However, as an old rival, Rasa knew that Kakashi could not be easily solved by him. He stood in midair with gold dust on his feet, his eyes constantly scanning the ground, looking for traces of Kakashi. Crackling. Crackling. Suddenly, a trembling sound of thunder came, and then Alyosha heard the sound and ran away, only to see a blue light appearing in the ball of placer gold, and then a figure with a blue light all over his body walked out of the placer gold. It was Kakashi. After seeing his sand gold burial being cracked by Kakashi from the front, Alyosha's eyes were shocked. He couldn't believe that Kakashi in front of him had grown to this point. Swish. Just when he was stunned, a blue figure had already arrived in front of him. Even after just getting close, Alyosha felt a violent energy rushing towards him. Crack. Crack. It's those thick arcs of electricity surrounding Kakashi. These arcs are like real thunder and lightning, with a strong sense of numbness. After approaching Rata, Kakashi didn't say anything nonsense. The long knife wrapped in blue thunder struck straight forward, and the thunderous roar sounded on the field. At this moment, Kakashi's human and sword merged into one. Like a lightning swordsman. A thunderbolt sword shot out, and rushed straight towards Alyosha. Wow. A ball of placer gold rushed out, blocking Alyosha's front, but the next moment, the thunder and lightning sword light exuding violent energy directly disintegrated the placer gold. The placer gold that Alyosha was once proud of was like paper in front of the lightning sword. Boom. The next moment, the sword light fell directly on Alyosha. In panic, he stretched out his left hand to block the front, and then a ball of sand gold quickly appeared and submerged Alyosha's body. Boom. Boom. I saw two figures falling to the ground. One is Kakashi, whose whole body is emitting blue light, and the other is Rata, who is his left arm. This is the first generation cell. Kakashi's only exposed covering right eye was staring at Rata's left arm. Different from the flesh and blood of ordinary people, he noticed that Rata's entire left arm was grey-white. And Kakashi felt a familiar aura here. In fact, Kakashi had doubts about the recovery of Rata's broken arm before. The last time he had a simple fight with him in Tsunagakure village, he was aware of it, but he was not sure. But now he was extremely sure that Alyosha had indeed transplanted the first generation cells. Although Kakashi didn't know much about the first Hokage, he admired him very much in his heart. After all, Konoha village was founded by the first generation. Another point is that Kakashi has great respect for the dead, especially great people like the first generation. What Alyosha did was like desecrating the deceased. Alyosha, for the sake of true peace, you must die today. Kakashi raised his head and looked at Rata in front. Only the right eye that was exposed was filled with murderous intent. The next moment, he rushed towards Alyosha with the knife again. At this time, Kakashi's whole body was surrounded by blue lightning. In this state, he was extremely powerful in terms of speed and explosive power. In just an instant, he was in front of Alyosha. He swung the knife with his right arm, and in an instant, he struck out with a bolt of lightning. Faced with this blow, there was a trace of nervousness on Rata's face. Without any hesitation, chakra surged from his body, and a ball of sand gold appeared again to block Kakashi's face. Chapter 207. Alyosha is severely injured. Beijo appears. What stood in front of Alyosha at this time was a group of dark yellow placer gold. These placer gold had been condensed by him. Compared with ordinary placer gold, the defensive ability of dark yellow placer gold was stronger. However, after doing this, Alyosha still looked ugly. He knew that even these dark yellow sand gold could not stop Kakashi. It's not here yet. A trace of anxiety flashed in Alyosha's eyes. With his strength, it was obvious that he could not compete with Kakashi. If this continued, it would be a matter of time before he was killed. With this thought in his mind, Alyosha turned into a ball of sand gold and dissipated. At this time, Kakashi had already broken through the defense of the dark yellow sand gold. Looking at Alyosha, who used the placer gold substitute to escape from here, there was no surprise in Kakashi's eyes. As a shadow level expert, he knew that it was not easy to be killed at the shadow level. Everyone had their own means of saving their lives. Swish. Then Kakashi appeared in a flash a few hundred meters away, where there was a slightly embarrassed figure. It was Alyosha. As expected, I still can't escape. Looking at Kakashi in front of him, who exuded a strong aura, Rasa's expression gradually became depressed. At this time, he had already used all his methods and there were no tricks that could block Kakashi's offensive. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred in his left arm, which had been broken off in part. Boom. The broken arm was automatically disconnected from the shoulder, and the second half of the arm fell to the ground. Then Alyosha saw that the half of the arm began to swell, until finally, it formed a white humanoid monster with only half of the body. Master Alyosha, it seems you are in danger. A laugh came from the mouth of this half-body monster. As our ally, nothing can happen to you now, Kai. At this moment, a sound broke through the air, and then a blue sword light appeared. The next moment, the sword light fell directly on the white monster. Crackling, a burst of thunder and lightning roared, and the half of the monster was cut directly in half by the lightning sword, and there was a blue arc attached to its body. Alyosha looked ugly when she saw this scene, but at this moment, several familiar auras appeared around her. I saw more than a dozen white figures approaching Alyosha very quickly. After Alyosha turned his head and saw those figures, his tense expression relaxed slightly, but the next moment, a blue light flashed in front of his eyes, and then he felt a sharp pain in his chest. Crack. The sound of thunder and lightning exploded. At this moment, Kakashi raised his left hand, and a long spear made of blue lightning appeared in his hand, which was the Chidori sharp spear. It's still blocked. Kakashi murmured softly. He had fought against Alyosha more than once, so he knew that the opponent was protected by a layer of sand gold armor. The Chidori sharp spear in his hand was blocked by the placer armor, but it's time to end it. Kakashi turned his head and glanced at the white figures approaching quickly around him. His only exposed right eye flashed with a sharp light, and then a violent energy rose from him. Thunder. Flame explosion. After a low drink, Kakashi's figure instantly became illusory, and at the same time, a flash of red suddenly appeared on the blue Chidori spear in his hand. Boom. Suddenly a violent explosion sounded, and a red fire appeared where Kakashi and Rasa were. Centered there, a strong impact spread towards the surroundings in an open space 100 meters away. After a space vibration, a blue figure appeared there. It was Kakashi. His sharp eyes fell on the location of the explosion. After the smoke completely dissipated, an embarrassed figure was lying on the ground. It was Alyosha. I saw that there were many places on his body that were scorched black at this time, especially his chest, which looked like it had exploded, and was bloody. However, it can be judged from the rising and falling of his chest that Alyosha was not completely dead at this time. It's because it's protected by placer gold. Kakashi secretly thought in his heart, then flicked one hand, and the short silver blade tore through the air and stabbed straight towards Rasa on the ground. Puff. The sound of the short blade sinking into flesh was heard, but at this moment Kakashi frowned slightly. A white figure appeared, blocking the short blade with his body. It was Beiju's clone. Looking at the white Zetsu in front of him, Kakashi frowned slightly. He felt that the white Zetsu in front of him was somewhat familiar. Swish. Immediately, Kakashi's figure flashed, and when he appeared, he was already in front of Beizetsu. He held the short blade in his right hand, and with a fierce stroke, Beizetsu's left shoulder was cut off in an instant. Haha. Take Kakashi, I didn't expect to have grown to this point. Beizetsu, who had his arm cut off, showed no pain on his face, and said to Kakashi with a sneer. Aha. At this moment, a dozen white figures appeared, and they all swarmed up, engulfing Kakashi's body. But at this moment, a ball of white substance crawled on Alyosha's body, and then gradually submerged into his body. Alyosha's weak breathing, visible to the naked eye, began to recover. The life breath in his body also began to rise. Boom. Suddenly, a violent force came, and a dozen white figures flew backwards at high speed, revealing Kakashi, whose whole body was shining with blue light. Not paying attention to those white Zetsu, Kakashi continued to focus on Rasa. However, after seeing the opponent's condition clearly, Kakashi's pupils shrank sharply, and without any hesitation, He raised the short blade in his hand and stabbed Rasa on the head point, but at this moment, a sudden change occurred, and Alyosha's body suddenly fell down, and then a figure shrouded by a giant pitcher plant emerged from the ground point at the same time. Several thick wooden pillars suddenly rose from the ground, and these wooden pillars surrounded Kakashi. Wooden escape, 4-pillar prison. Beiju's voice came, and he saw only half of his face under the pitcher plant boom. After a loud noise, the thick wooden pillars instantly turned into countless sawdust, and Kakashi, who was shrouded in thunder and lightning, reappeared. However, his face looked ugly at this time, and only his right eye was exposed, releasing a strong killing intent. He recognized the white Zetsu in front of him, who was the one who severely injured Kushina on the night Naruto was born. Kakashi reached out and lifted up the forehead protector covering his left eye. The next moment, the Scarlet 3 Magatama Sharingan emitted a dazzling red light, but this was not the end point. I saw 3 black Magatama in the Scarlet eyes spinning rapidly, and then turned into a black triangular windmill pattern. Main Gekyo Sharingan, Obito's left eye. Beizetsu's expression changed instantly after seeing the change in Kakashi's left eye. Chapter 208 A Good Life-Saving Ninjutsu. Roar, a roar like a beast sounded in the camp of Sunagakure village. A monster with a dark red body and 5 giant tails formed by dark red energy appeared here. It was Sarutobi Yiming, after transforming into a tailed beast. But at this time, there was a look of fear on his face. 3 years have passed, and now Sarutobi Yiming has mastered most of the power of the 6 tails in his body with the first generation cells in his body, and his strength has barely reached the cage level. However, at this time, Sarutobi Yiming had some doubts about himself. He looked up at Naraku, who had his eyes closed in front of him, with a look of fear on his face. Just now, he was crushed by Naraku in all directions, and he could not defeat him in any aspect. I'm not even as good as a blind man, he whispered in his mind. Compared to Sarutobi Yiming, who felt scared, Naraku felt a little bored at this time. Originally, he thought Sarutobi Yiming could bring him a little surprise, but in the end he was disappointed. The opponent's strongest method is still to transform into a tailed beast. At this time, Naraku had a feeling that if the Jinchuriki relied too much on the tailed beast might become his constraint. He became alert in his heart. Kakashi naturally didn't have to worry. Although he was a second-tailed Jinchuriki, he rarely used the second-tailed power. At most, he just borrowed some chakra from the second-tailed one. The one he wanted to be wary of was Naruto, and he didn't want Naruto to rely too much on the power of the Kyuubi in the future. Since Naruto in the original work was able to master the magic of Myomu Mountain in a short period of time, it shows that his training talent is very strong. But in the later period, he relied too much on the power of the 9 tails. Although the Kyuubi is very strong, its strength is limited. If Naruto wants to go further in the future, he still has to rely on himself. Not only Naruto, Naraku also gave himself this vigilance. All future Otsutsumu will have 6 levels of strength, so he must continue to improve his strength. It's better to recover your eyes as soon as possible, Naraku thought to himself, and then he lost the intention to continue making trouble. Call out, call out, call out. Under his control, 8 thick golden chains stretched out at high speed and rushed towards Sarutobi Yiming in front. Seeing this scene, Sarutobi Yiming didn't hesitate at all. He saw that he had turned into a tailed beast and landed on all 4s. Then he exerted force and moved quickly to avoid the chain's attack. But it is obvious that, although his speed is very fast, it is still far behind compared to the golden chain. Soon 2 chains appeared in front of Sarutobi Yiming and then wrapped directly around him. Sarutobi Yiming's pupils shrank when he saw this, and the dark red giant tail behind him reached out at high speed and collided with the chain. Boom. After a violent sound, the chains were directly wrapped around the giant tail, and then the remaining 7 chains seized the opportunity to wrap around Sarutobi Yiming's body. Call, call, call. The next moment, there was a sound of vibration in the air, and then a rapidly rotating spiral shuriken rushed at extremely high speed, and then landed directly on Sarutobi Yiming. But it doesn't end there. Boom, boom. Suddenly 2 thunder and lightning roars sounded, and then 2 thunder and lightning as thick as buckets fell from the sky and also fell on him. Sarutobi Yiming, who had been hit hard continuously, felt sluggish, and the dark red energy on his body began to slowly dissipate, along with the dark red giant tail behind him. Although the Jinchuriki has a strong recovery ability, there is an upper limit. The strength of the six tails is not strong to begin with, so Sarutobi Liming, who relies on the strength of the six tails, is not strong either. Under Naraku's control, the golden chain was slowly retracted, and then Sarutobi Liming, who fainted, revealed his figure. At this time, Naraku hesitated whether to kill Sarutobi Kazuma directly here. Although the six tails is sealed in his body, the tail beast is just an energy collector, so even if Sarutobi is killed at this time, the six tails will be resurrected soon. Boom. But just as Naraku was thinking about this, Sarutobi Yiming on the ground suddenly turned into a burst of white smoke and disappeared. Naraku frowned slightly when he sensed the disappearance of Sarutobi Yiming's aura. This is reverse channeling, he murmured in his mouth. What a pity, then. He turned around and left here. As for the Sunagakure people, they had already withdrawn from the camp, and there were only hundreds of corpses left here. After Naraku's big fuss, the fighting spirit mobilized by Rasa completely dissipated among the people of Sunagakure, and they had given up the attack on Konoha in their hearts. Naraku's ability to crush the tailed beasts made them completely give up hope. Sarutobi Yiming stayed in Sand Hidden Village for 3 years, and many people knew his identity as the six-tailed Jinchuriki. In the eyes of ordinary ninjas, Jinchuriki and tailed beasts are extremely terrifying beings, and are used as weapons to destroy cities, but this kind of weapon has now been directly crushed by Konoha's ninjas with one person. And this person is still blind. Naraku used his absolute strength to defeat the confidence of Sunagakure. The other side. Danzo, who was constantly dodging K's offensive, seemed to have received some news, and everyone his expression suddenly changed. What a waste. Danzo secretly thought in his heart, and then he raised his head and looked at K in front of him. A trace of resentment flashed in his eyes, but at this moment, a powerful aura was approaching here at a very fast speed. Danzo, who noticed this aura, did not hesitate at all, raised his hands, and began to form seals. Reverse channeling. Boom. Then, like Sarutobi Yiming, his body turned into a burst of white smoke, and disappeared. Swish. At this moment, a red-haired figure appeared here. It's really a step too late. It was Naraku. He murmured in his mouth. After feeling Danzo's breath disappear, he knew that the other party had left here. Reverse channeling is indeed a good life-saving ninjutsu. Naraku has used reverse channeling before to protect Kushina. It seems like I have to mark them in advance next time, Naraku thought to himself. Then he and K rushed in the direction of Shisu. Naraku had a feeling in his heart that the third generation would definitely use reverse channeling to escape from here. Just as he expected, after Sande noticed that he and K were approaching, he directly used reverse channeling to turn into a puff of white smoke with a bang. Shizu was a little helpless about this. Although he was very powerful, reverse channeling only required a mark, so he couldn't stop the third generation at all. It's okay. After all, our target this time is not them. Naraku's voice came over at this moment. Let's go see how the battle is going at Brother K's place. Chapter 209. Is it really you, Abato? At this time, Kakashi was confronting someone. The orange tiger skin mask, with only the scarlet right eye exposed, was Uchiha Obito. In fact, he didn't plan to come over originally, but he rushed over after Ju's strong request. At this time, Kakashi was confronting someone. This time, Ilyusha temporarily saved his life because of Beizetsu's rescue, but Kakashi's explosive lightning strike had destroyed many organs in his body. Even with Beizetsu's help, he would be unable to survive in a short period of time. Don't even think about regaining your strength. Kakashi's face was cold, and his eyes, one red and one black, exuded a sharp edge point. Whether it was the masked man or the strange looking weirdo, in Kakashi's eyes, they were the ones who killed Minato, so it was impossible for Kakashi to just let them leave here. It's time to pay the rent, and we are traveling again. Kakashi murmured in his heart, and instantly, the amount of chakra that had been consumed in his body became full in an instant. Crack. Crack. Kakashi's face brightened when he got the rent, and then violent thunder attribute chakra burst out from his body. With the help of the two tails in his body, he no longer has to worry about insufficient chakra as before. This is the aura of the tailed beast. Kakashi has actually become a Jinchuriki. At this moment, Obito's face changed as he noticed the aura of the tailed beast. He looked at Kakashi in front of him in disbelief. But just for a moment, his eyes recovered and became cold again. However, the face under the mask changed its expression. He knew exactly what the Jinchuriki meant. Their plan in the future is to extract all the tailed beasts from the Jinchuriki's body. Once the tailed beast leaves the Jinchuriki's body, the Jinchuriki will die immediately. This also means that Kakashi will become their hunting target. A complicated look appeared under the mask. Someone is coming. At this moment, Z's voice sounded in his ears. After hearing this, Obito came back to his senses, and he also sensed an unusually powerful aura approaching here quickly, including the familiar Uzumaki Naraku. I didn't expect that guy to come too, Obito murmured in his mouth, and after thinking briefly, he decided to leave here first. As a former teammate of Kakashi, Obito was very aware of Kakashi's talent. After transplanting his left eye, chakra amount became his only shortcoming. However, Obito knows that Kakashi, who has now become a Jinchuriki, will no longer have any weaknesses, and his strength will definitely increase rapidly. Although his strength has also increased a lot, he is still slightly stronger than Kakashi at most, but Kakashi is not the only one now. If he waited until Uzumaki Naraku arrived, he would have to work hard to leave. Obito's face froze when he thought of this, and then he raised his hands and began to form seals quickly. Escape from the wood, be bound by the tree, and be buried forever. A low shout came from Obito's mouth, and then a tender green sapling was seen rising from Kakashi's feet, and then quickly grew into a vigorous tree. And Kakashi's body seemed to be submerged by a big tree. However, Obito knew that Kakashi would not be solved so easily by him. As expected, a blue figure appeared in front of him. It was Kakashi. Kakashi had already escaped from there before the big tree grew. Now he was holding a long sword, and in an instant, thunder and lightning sword light was struck from the sword. Crack, crack. Violent thunder and lightning gathered on the sword, and the sound of thunder trembled. At this time, Obito's right eye was focused, and then he seemed not to see the light of the thunder and lightning sword, and let it fall on him. But the next moment, the thunder and lightning sword light went straight through his body, and Obito used virtualization. Seeing this scene, Kakashi didn't hesitate at all. A line of blood and tears flowed from his left eye, and his divine power was activated instantly. Then the lightning sword light suddenly became distorted, and Kakashi was about to send it to the Kamu space. But at this moment, the twisted lightning sword light suddenly froze there, and Kakashi instantly felt that his eye power was hindered. It was as if the same eye force was fighting against him. It wasn't until Obito's body returned to reality that the lightning blade continued to twist and was then teleported to the Kamu space. Then Obito came to Ilyusha's side in a flash, put his right hand on the opponent's shoulder, and then activated his pupil power, and their two bodies became twisted at the same time. Kakashi's expression changed when he saw this. He knew that Obito and the others were preparing to escape from here. Without hesitation, the powerful eye power burst out from his left eye again, and the divine power was activated again. This time he used the divine power directly on Obito. He wanted to use his divine power to stop Obito from using the time and space ninjutsu. The illusory bodies of Obito and Rasa that were visible to the naked eye solidified slightly, but they continued to become illusory the next moment. At this time, Kakashi once again sensed a powerful pupil force against him, and this pupil force was very familiar. After careful induction, Kakashi discovered that this pupil force was actually the same as the pupil force in his left eye look-alike. Have you succeeded yet, Obito? Beiju on the side seemed to have noticed something, and after thinking to himself, he slowly dived underground. The pupil power of his left eye was blocked, and the divine power released by Kakashi could no longer affect Obito. He could only watch as the opponent took away Rasa. Kakashi frowned slightly, looking at the masked man and Rasa who were about to disappear, and the bold idea in his heart was magnified several times again. Obito. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and shouted Obito's name loudly, but at this time, Obito had completely become invisible, and the figure and Rasa completely disappeared here. Is that you, Obito? Kakashi murmured, and then he reached out and pulled down his forehead protector to cover his left eye. Although he now has the two tails in his body and does not have to worry about the Sharingan consuming chakra, this only allows him to use the 3 Magatama Sharingan for a long time. However, the main Gekkai Sharingan cannot be abused casually. Not only will his eyesight be severely reduced, but if the power of the main Gekkai Sharingan is continuously erupted, Kakashi's spirit will also be depleted. After all, he is not a member of the Uchiha clan. Being able to develop the Sharingan to this point is already the limit. How many people in the Uchiha clan can use the Sharingan even better than him? An outsider. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, 3 figures appeared here. It was Naraku and the others. It seems we are late, Naraku murmured when he came here. He sensed many familiar scents here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210. Then help them choose a Kazekage. Zetsu, Obito, there has indeed been some collision between you and Sunagakure village for a long time, Naraku murmured. Even before Kakashi spoke, Naraku had already sensed those 2 familiar auras. As for Obito, Naraku has fought with him many times. The opponent's body is filled with the aura of a large number of first generation cells. As for Zetsu, the opponent's entire body is made of materials very similar to the first generation cells. In fact, the description in the original work is very contradictory as to what kind of creature White Zetsu is. Madara believes that White Zetsu is a life form he created using first generation cells and yin yang escape. White Zetsu's physical characteristics are also consistent with this statement, but it was later said that White Zetsu evolved from a normal human after infinite Tsukuyomi. In fact, regarding this statement, Naraku feels that both are reasonable, but he prefers the second one. Because Madara had been deceived by Black Zetsu at that time, many things were completely different from what he thought. The birth of Black and White Shuangs was just something that Madara thought he had created. On the field, Shisu and Kei stayed here to observe the situation, while Kakashi took Naraku back to the village, inside the Hokage's office. Even though it was late at night, the lights were still brightly lit. Tsunade, Jiraiya, Inokapan, Uchiha Fugaku, Hinata Hisashi, and basically all the high-level officials of Konoha village appeared here. As for Kakashi and Naraku, after they reported the situation to Tsunade, the former continued to the border, while Naraku returned to the clan to catch up on his sleep. The 4th Kazekage has been abolished and has disappeared. The Sunagakure army has also been demoralized. What do you think? Tsunade was the first to speak, and said in a deep voice. After hearing this, several senior executives' expressions changed. Although Tsunade had informed them in advance that they were going to assassinate the 4th Kazekage, they did not expect that they would succeed so quickly. Although Ilyusha is not dead, there is no doubt that he is now disabled. Even if Beiju can cure him, it will take some time. What Tsunade has to do is to completely solve the problem of Sunagakure village within this period of time. In fact, there is a very direct method in front of Konoha village, which is to send troops to Sunagakure village. For Konoha today, Sunagakure village without rats poses almost no threat. If Konoha is willing, they can send out a large army now to directly destroy Sunagakure village. In fact, this idea came to Tsunade's mind, but she rejected it. It is not difficult to destroy Sunagakure village. What is difficult is how to take the next step. After doing so. Once Sunagakure village is destroyed, the remaining Kumogakure, Kirigakure, and Iwa Ninja will inevitably unite to deal with Konoha, so Tsunade knows that Sunagakure village will be destroyed sooner or later, but not now. The people who were invited by Tsunade today were all people she trusted very much. In fact, Tsunade also had her own ideas. The reason why she wanted to tell them what happened today was not because she really wanted their help in coming up with a countermeasure, but Tsunade wanted to give them a vaccination in advance and let them know some of her thoughts. However, Tsunade only touched on this kind of thing and didn't say much. She knew that everyone here would understand what she meant. As for how to deal with the current Sunagakure village, Tsunade has already made up her mind. Now that the 4th Kazekage is dead, let's help them choose another Kazekage. In A hidden cave near Kirigakure village. Zuosuke, who was resting with his eyes closed, seemed to have sensed something. He suddenly raised his head and looked forward, only to see that the originally stable space in front of him suddenly became vibrating, and then Obito wearing a mask and a black robe was revealed shape. With him was the dying Alyosha. Who is this person? Zuosuke looked at Alyosha, who was half lying on the ground. He felt that the other person's face was familiar, but for a moment he couldn't remember who this person was. Haha, leave this person to me. At this moment, a white figure emerged from the ground and stood beside Alyosha. It was Beiju's clone. Obito nodded lightly and said nothing. He had already checked Alyosha's injuries. Most of the organs in his body were damaged, and even his heart was damaged. Even with Beiju's help, it would probably be difficult to recover in less than half a year. I have spread the news that the 4th Kazekage was killed in Konoha's plot, especially Kumogakure and Iwa Ninja. This opportunity must be taken advantage of, Beisetsu said with a smile on his face. It is good. Obito nodded slightly, and he agreed with this decision. Konoha is becoming more and more powerful now, and they must find ways to inhibit their development. Then Beiju disappeared here with Alyosha. At this time, Zuosuke looked shocked. He said in disbelief, could it be that the person just now was the 4th Kazekage? Kindness. Obito nodded lightly, and then he disappeared here in a flash. Only Zuosuke looked in disbelief, but he soon realized, Konoha is so brave, even the shadow of a village dares to assassinate. The appearance of Alyosha sounded the alarm in Zuosuke's heart. He knew that he had to improve his strength as soon as possible. He knew that even following the masked man was not safe. The other party just valued the ability of his main Jiki Sharingan. In the divine space. In a silent space, there was a lonely figure. It was Obito. Obito raised his hand and took off the tiger striped mask on his head, revealing the left half of his face, which was full of wrinkles. You can see a line of dried red blood under his left eye, as if he shed a tear of blood not long ago. Kakashi. You can't stop me, Obito said in a hoarse voice. Then a powerful aura burst out from his body, and his right eye instantly turned scarlet. 3 black magatama flashed in the red eyes, but the next moment it turned into a black triangular windmill pattern. Lin, I will definitely do it. The border of the kingdom of Wind. After Alyosha was taken away by Obito and the others, the Placer Gold Army fell into panic. The shadow of a village is the belief of every villager and the spiritual leader of every villager, but now that their spiritual leader is missing, many ninjas in Sunagakure have worried looks on their faces. They dare not imagine the days when there will be no Kazekage in Sunagakure village. Shizu, who was responsible for monitoring their movements, had a complicated expression, but soon his eyes became firm again. Assassinating a village of shadows is not their true intention. What they pursue is true peace. Hopefully, that day will come soon. Chapter 211 Tsunade's Conspiracy. Near the border of the kingdom of Wind. Chihio, who was rushing forward quickly, seemed to have noticed something. He suddenly raised his head and looked forward, only to see a beautiful figure appearing in front of him. With a pear-shaped figure, a tea-green coat, and long pale blonde hair. The person who came was none other than Tsunade, the 5th Hokage of Konoha. At the same time, there were 2 figures guarding her side, one on the left, and one on the right. It was Jiraiya and Kakashi. Chihio looked up at the 3 people in front of her. Her expression suddenly turned ugly, and an ominous premonition arose in her heart. And what Tsunade said next made her expression change instantly. Rasa is dead, Tsunade said slowly. How come? Chihio's expression suddenly changed, and a look of shock appeared on her face. Although the relationship between her and Rasa has not been good, it is undeniable that Rasa has indeed contributed to Sunagakure, and his strength is also very powerful, not weak at all compared to the previous Kazekage. She went to the border this time, just to persuade Rasa to give up her attack on Konoha, but she didn't expect that before she got there, someone had already informed her that Rasa was dead. Chihio's mood fluctuated for a while. First, the 3rd Kazekage disappeared for no reason, and then the 4th Kazekage suddenly died in battle. Could it be that our Sunagakure village really cannot develop? Chihio secretly thought in his heart. His old face was full of loneliness, but soon the loneliness was replaced by hatred. She raised her head and looked at Tsunade in front of her, a sharp light flashing in her eyes. Konoha village is really good at it. Now it is planning to completely destroy our Sunagakure village. Chiyo said with a look of resentment on his face, revealing undisguised hostility in his tone. The third Kazakage suddenly disappeared during the Third Ninja War. At that time, Sunagakure village suspected that Konoha had done it secretly, and a war broke out between them and Konoha. And now that the fourth Kazakage has died at the hands of Konoha village, Chiyo believes that there is no end in sight between Sunagakure village and Konoha. Haha, Elder Chiyo, don't belittle yourself. You should also be aware of the various little tricks the fourth Kazakage secretly made towards me, Konoha. Tsunade sneered, and when she spoke of Rasa, her tone was full of contempt. Now they are leading the Sunagakure army to launch an attack on our country of fire. We have only done what a country should do. As for destroying Sunagakure village, we have no such idea now. Tsunade said calmly. Chiyo had no expression on his face when he heard this, nor did he say anything to refute Tsunade's point. She knew that what Tsunade said was true. In recent years, under the instructions of Rasa, the people of Sunagakure village had intentionally sabotaged the mission of Konoha Ninja. If she and Tsunade were to change places, she would also choose same approach. Unbearable, no need to endure. At this time, Chiyo is worried about Sunagakure village. Due to the limited environment of Sunagakure village, the strength of the entire ninja village is at the bottom among the 5 major ninja villages, and now Rasa, the 4th Kazakage, died in the battle. Even if Konoha does not take action against Sunagakure village now, the other ninja villages will never sit still and wait for death after hearing the news of Rasa's death in battle, especially the old Iwa ninja, the 3rd Tsuchikage. Chiyo does not believe that he will give up on Sunagakure. Hidden village is a soft persimmon. Is Sunagakure village really going to end? Chiyo murmured in his heart. His face looked a little disappointed, and the hatred towards Konoha village in his heart even dropped a bit. Tsunade in front saw a gleam in her eyes after seeing her like this. She had already guessed what Chiyo was thinking. This was not beyond her expectation. On the contrary, this was the effect she wanted. Then Tsunade took a step forward and said, if Sunagakure village is willing, Konoha is still an ally of Sunagakure village. If other ninja villages want to take action against Sunagakure village, Konoha village will take action. Chiyo's expression changed slightly when she heard this. Having lived for so long, she naturally understood what Tsunade meant instantly. She knew this was a conspiracy. If she chose to agree to Tsunade and continue to be an ally with Konoha, although Konoha would protect Sunagakure, in the long run, Konoha would definitely engulf Sunagakure village completely. But if it does not form an alliance with Konoha, the current Sunagakure village will not have the strength to face other ninja villages. If this continues, it will only be a matter of time before Sunagakure village is destroyed. For a moment, a look of hesitation flashed across Chiyo's face. At this time, Tsunade spoke again. Chiyo, don't you want to pursue true peace? Don't you want the villagers of Sunagakure village to live in a better environment? Chiyo's expression changed slightly when she heard this. She looked at Tsunade with an incredulous look. Do you think so? Tsunade nodded firmly at this. I want to change the entire ninja world. Completely end the war, and let everyone live a peaceful life. If someone else had said such a thing, they might have been joking, but Tsunade was different. It was no exaggeration to say that she was now the most powerful person in the ninja world. As a descendant of the first Hokage, the current Hokage of Konoha village, and with the elite soldiers under her command, even the 3rd Tsuchikage, who was stronger than her, could not match Tsunade's right to speak. After careful consideration, Chiyo finally chose to agree to Tsunade's request. Although she was very unwilling to do so, this was the best result for Sunagakure village. Will peace really come? Hokage's office. With Kakishi's help, Tsunade, Jiraiya and Chiyo came here directly. Yingai's shining has grown to this stage. At this time, Chiyo was filled with emotions. She knew that she had no hope of revenge in her life. Next, they re-signed the alliance treaty in the Hokage's office, but the difference from before was that this time the representative of Sunagakure village was replaced by the elder Chiyo. After signing the alliance treaty, Kakashi once again used the Flying Thunder God technique to send Chiyo to the border of the Kingdom of Wind, which was very close to the Sunagakure army. After doing this, Kakashi took Shizu and left here, but before leaving, He handed a kunai with a mark of the flying thunder god to Chiyo. If Tsunagakure village is attacked by a shadow level strongman, Chiyo can use this kunai to notify him. These are all requested by Tsunade. In her words, since they have become an ally, it is natural to do so. Chiyo put the kunai into a scroll with a sigh on her face. She never thought that one day she would need her enemy to protect Tsunagakure village. Chiyo shook his head and stood up and rushed towards the Tsunagakure army. As the elder of Tsunagakure village, Chiyo still has a high reputation, even though she has retired. Under her order, the Tsunagakure army simply reorganized and then began to return to Tsunagakure village. Chapter 212, Hidden Mist Village needs new elders. The next day. Tsunagakure village ushered in a big event today. That is, the 5th generation Kazekage took office. To be precise, he was the acting Kazekage. After Chiyo brought the Tsunagakure army back to Tsunagakure village overnight yesterday, she summoned the senior management of Tsunagakure village to the Kazekage building in the name of the elders. Then she told everyone about Alyosha's death in battle, and everyone was shocked when they heard the news. According to the system of Tsunagakure village, after the Kazekage dies in battle, the elder becomes the supreme leader of the village. Today, Tsunagakure village has 3 elders, Chiyo, Ibizo, and Anzo. As for the one who was forced to abdicate by Rasa before, the elder has passed away. So now that Rasa, who is the Kazekage, died in battle, Chiyo naturally became the top leader of Tsunagakure village. Someone originally proposed to let her be the 5th Kazekage, but Chiyo rejected it because of her age. In the end, she only agreed to take the position of acting as Feng Ying's agent. The first thing Chiyo did after taking control of Tsunagakure was to expel Danzo and the 3rd generation, who were still in Tsunagakure village as elders and Anbu ministers, from Tsunagakure village, and classify them as S-class traitors. Tolerate. Then Chiyo began her path to power. As both women, Chiyo's methods were no worse than Tsunade's. It only took her one day to eliminate those who opposed her in the village. Then Tsunagakure village was completely in her hands. Some people may think that Chiyo is too power-minded, but most people know that Chiyo did so much just to protect Tsunagakure village. After Chiyo completely took control of the village, she announced that Tsunagakure village and Konoha village were permanent allies in the name of acting Kazekage. Tsunade was naturally very cooperative in announcing their alliance treaty. Since then, the situation in Sand Hidden village has been completely resolved. You want to send Gaara back to Sand Hidden village? Naraku, who is from the Senju clan's clan, frowned. His tone full of doubts. In front of him was a tall white-haired figure. It was Jiraiya. Just now, Jiraiya said something that was a little hard for Naraku to accept, which was to send Gaara back to Tsunagakure village. Naraku knew that Kazekage Chiyo, the agent of Tsunagakure village, had proposed this matter to Tsunade, but was rejected by Tsunade on the spot. With the current strength of Konoha village, even if Gaara is detained in the village openly, it will be fine. What's more, Gaara has been staying in Mount Mayaboku, and as long as Konoha village does not admit to the outside world that it has kidnapped a Jinchuriki, things will be fine. But what people didn't expect was that after Jiraiya went to Mount Mayaboku, he came back and said he wanted to send Gaara back to Tsunagakure village. Teacher, you should know that Gaara is the son of Rasa, the 4th Kazekage. If he knows that we were the ones to do something to him, we will even be responsible for the current situation in Tsunagakure village. Then, what choice will Gaara make? Naraku said in a deep voice. Jiraiya looked helpless when he heard this. In fact, he knew what Naraku said. If Gaara is sent back to Sand Hidden village now, it will be tantamount to letting the tiger go back to the mountain. When Tsunade's plan is actually implemented in the future, Gaara may stand on the opposite side of them. Although Jiraiya was well aware of the consequences of sending Gaara back to Sand Hidden village, he had a reason to do so. Even if he didn't do it, someone else would do it. Could it be? Suddenly, Naraku seemed to have thought of something, and his face suddenly changed. Is this what Myomushin means? He asked tentatively. Jiraiya slightly at this. Gaara has become the descendant of Myomu Mountain, and it was the Toad Sage who ordered him to return to Tsunagakure village himself. Immortal, Myomushin is planning something secretly, Naraku thought to himself. In the end, he agreed to the matter, just as Jiraiya thought. Even if he didn't agree, Gaara would still be sent back to Tsunagakure village, unless they wanted to break up with Miyaboki Mountain. However, it is obvious that, because of Jiraiya's existence, they still maintain a good relationship with Miyaboki Mountain. Not to mention, that Naraku also signed a psychic contract with Miyaboki Mountain. After Naraku nodded, Tsunade could only agree to the matter, and then Jiraiya returned to Miyaboki Mountain. He personally escorted Gaara to Tsunagakure village, and even stayed there for a while, before he returned to the village. Returned to Konoha, in a hidden cave near Kirigakure village. The originally silent cave suddenly welcomed 3 rare guests today. It was Danzo, who had escaped from the border of the Kingdom of Wind, and Sarutobi Iknui. As for the 3rd generation, Danzo had not been able to contact him for the time being. Haha, Elder Danzo, you are finally here. A voice of laughter came. The speaker's figure was shrouded by a giant pitcher plant. It was Zetsu. However, it can be seen that he seems to have been separated from Black Zetsu at this time, with only half of his pale face above his head. After escaping from the Kingdom of Wind, Danzo once again realized a problem. That is, he and the 3rd generation alone could not compete with the current Konoha point. Whether it is Uzumaki Naraku, Kakashi, Shisu, or Itachi, they are all top-notch geniuses, especially now that they are still young and their strength has not yet reached its peak, and they will become stronger year by year if this continues. Even if Danzo is given another 10 or 20 years, he will not be able to compete with them. Although the reincarnated body of the Dirty Land can live forever, Danzo knows very well that, if a strong man who is good at sealing encounters him, he will not be able to escape at all. In fact, when he met Uzumaki Naraku at the border of the Kingdom of Wind, he was a little panicked in his heart. It is well known in the ninja world that the Uzumaki clan is good at sealing techniques, so he used reverse channeling to escape from there in advance. Another point is that although reverse channeling is a good life-saving ninjutsu, it is okay to use this method once or twice, and people will be wary of it in the future. Apart from anything else, if it was Kakashi who was fighting him at that time, Danzo would not be able to escape, no matter what. So now, in order to protect himself and plan for the future, Danzo can only temporarily find an ally. In fact, Beiju is also very clear about Danzo's thoughts, but they are currently short of manpower, and everyone is just using each other. What's more, the one following Danzo was the Six Tails Jinchuriki, and Danzo had already saved them trouble invisibly. Maybe the plan can be started in advance, Beisetsu murmured in his heart, and then he took Danzo to see Obito. Obito was not surprised when he saw Danzo. When he went to the sand-hidden village to rescue Rasa, he had already guessed that Danzo would come to them again. But Kirigakure village also needs a new elder. Chapter 213 Assassination of Kirigakure Jonin, Terumi Mei. In Kirigakure village, Mizukage's office. The 4th Mizukage Yagura was sitting alone at his desk, processing the documents on the desk. At this moment, the space in front of him changed, and then a space vortex appeared there. Then Obito, wearing a black robe and a tiger striped mask, appeared here, followed by 2 people behind him. It was Danzo and Sarutobi Ikumi. This is the 4th Mizukage. Danzo looked up at the man in front of him. Sure enough, Kirigakure village has already been controlled by others, Danzo murmured in his heart. As a former leader, he knew a lot about the 5 major ninja villages. Among them, he sent people to Kirigakure village to find out the news. He had long guessed that the 4th Mizukage had been controlled by someone. Now it seems that his suspicion was correct, that Obito controlled him. At this time, Sarutobi Yiming frowned slightly. He sensed a familiar aura on the 4th Mizukage's body, Jinkriki. He murmured in his mind, and he felt a very similar aura on Yagura's body to the Vulpix in his body. Just when he discovered the identity of Yagura's Jinchuriki, Yagura also discovered him. As a perfect Jinkriki, Yagura has a mind-to-heart connection with the 3 tails in his body. As early as the moment Sarutobi Ichimui appeared, the 3 tails had already told him the information about the 6 tails sealed in his body. Madara-sama, Yagura saluted Obito respectfully. Being controlled by Obito using the kaleidoscope, he has already regarded Obito as his master in his heart, even with the 3 tails in his body. Kindness. Obito slightly, and then said, "These two people will be left to you. They will help you completely control the power of Kirigakure village." When Yagura heard this, he was slightly startled for a moment, and then a smile appeared on his face. Due to Kisame's rebellion not long ago, the Tsukuyomi puffer demon killed by him, and the trouble caused by that faction, Yagura is now in a stage where no one can use it. It is obvious that Danzo brought by Obito together with Sarutobi Yiming. They solved his urgent need. After handing Danzo and Yagura to Yagura, Obito left here directly. At Obito's suggestion, Danzo was appointed by Yagura as the new elder of Kirigakure village. As for the original elder, he had already been dismissed. And Sarutobi Yiming also received his first mission in Kirigakure village, assassinating Kirigakure Jonin, Terumi Mei. This was an order given by Yagura himself. Terumi Mei, over the past few years, her strength and reputation have grown tremendously, especially in terms of reputation, and she even has a tendency to surpass him, the fourth Mizukage. Yagura knew that Terumi Mei was the representative selected by the elders of Kirigakure village who had been dismissed by him, with the purpose of overthrowing him. But it was obvious that Yagura would not just let them develop freely. A bridge outside Kirigakure village. This is the only way to return to Kirigakure village. Point at this moment, a beautiful figure appeared on the bridge. She had long brown hair and a pair of determined eyes on her fair face. It was none other than the future 5th Mizukage, Terumi Mei. Point at this time, she was wearing a ninja outfit, and it was obvious that she had just completed her mission and was about to return to the village. 3 years have passed, and Terumi Mei looks a little more mature than before. Although she has not grown into a mature sister like in the original work, she has begun to take shape. But at this time, she frowned slightly. She had just gone to perform an escort mission near Kirigakure village, but when she passed a village on the way back, she encountered a group of bandits who were looting the village. She couldn't stand it at the time, so she took action directly. With her strength, she successfully solved the group of bandits, but even so, Terumi Mei was not happy at all. You must know that this is a scene that happened near Kirigakure village. Through this scene, you can see how chaotic the entire Water Kingdom is now. I must put an end to all this. Terumi Mei's eyes flashed as she thought of this. In fact, she was fully prepared. After returning to the village this time, she and the 4th Mizukage would break up, and she would be ready to overturn the table. But at this moment Terumi Mei suddenly stopped. Her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and she could see a young man appearing in her sight. The thin figure, holding a silver sword in his hand, was none other than Sarutobi Yiming. Terumi Mei frowned slightly. She felt a murderous aura in Sarutobi Yiming's body. Call out. At this moment, Sarutobi Yiming suddenly raised his hand and threw a shuriken forward. Then he began to form seals quickly, and then let out a low drink. Shuriken. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 1. Shuriken turned into 2, 2 turned into 4, and 4 turned into 8. In just an instant, hundreds of shurikens appeared and rushed towards Terumi Mei at great speed. Puff, puff, puff. The next moment, all the shurikens fell on Terumi Mei, but at this time, Sarutobi Yiming frowned slightly and looked at the scene in front of him. Terumi Mei, whose body was pierced by a shuriken, turned into a puddle of water and fell on the bridge. At this moment, Sarutobi Yiming seemed to notice something, and he suddenly turned his head and looked to one side. Water escape, water dragon bullet. A low shout came into his ears. A giant blue dragon made of water appeared in front of him, and Terumi Mei was standing on the water under the bridge. Wow. The next moment, the water dragon surged at extremely high speed and rushed towards Sarutobi Yiming. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the bridge began to shake violently, and then cracks appeared on the bridge. At the same time, Sarutobi Yiming's figure was submerged by the blue water. With a strange face. Aren't they from the Yagura faction? Terumi Mei murmured in her heart at this time. Before she decided to overthrow the rule of the 4th Mizukage, she had already understood the strength of the Yagura faction. She was sure that there was no one like her inside. At this moment, Terumi Mei suddenly felt a violent force rising on the bridge, and then a dark red energy appeared in front of her eyes. At this time, a layer of dark red energy appeared on Sarutobi Yiming's body, and there was a tail formed of dark red energy behind him. Tail beast Outerwear. This person is a Jinchuriki. Medi Terumi had a look of surprise on her face when she saw this. She had seen Yagura using similar power, so she did a special investigation on this power and knew that it was formed from the chakra of the tailed beast. Terumi Medi never expected that a Jinkriki would attack him. Boom. At this moment, Sarutobi Iming, who was wearing a tailed beast's coat, exerted force on his feet and rushed towards Terumi Medi at a high speed. You could see a line of light appearing on the bridge where his feet landed. A crack-like gap. Chapter 214. Is it time to introduce someone to you? In Konoha village, inside the Ichiraku ramen shop, Mr. Minister, a heavy voice came into Kakashi's ears from the darkness. When Kakashi, who was eating noodles, heard the sound, his eyes narrowed slightly, and then he calmly finished the noodles in the bowl. After leaving a few banknotes, he disappeared into the noodle shop in a flash. Well, Kakashi is here for another mission. Uncle Handmaker muttered as he looked at the empty seat in front of him and the banknotes under the ballpoint inside the Hokage's office. In Kirigakure village, the fourth Mizukage is suspected to be controlled by a masked man. Kakashi looked at the information in his hand and murmured in his mouth point. The information in his hand was passed on by Itachi, who had sneaked into Kirigakure village. After solving the incident in Tsunagakure village, Tsunade ordered the teams that had lurked in other ninja villages to withdraw. Unlike other teams that all returned, Itachi only asked the team members who followed him to return to the village, while he himself chose to stay in Kirigakure village to gather information. Of course, his actions also had Tsunade's tacit approval. The last time Naraku went to Kirigakure village, he also found similar information. Tsunade said in a heavy tone. The masked man. From the moment the other party killed Minato, they have been on opposite sides, so Tsunade takes everything about the masked man very seriously. Judging from the information sent back by Itachi, the current Kirigakure village is also divided into factions. Nearly half of the forces have begun to oppose the fourth Mizukage's decision. They seem to want to support a new leader. Tsunade calmly analyzed the situation in Kirigakure village and had to say that the information Itachi passed on this time was very important. If the fourth Mizukage is really controlled by the masked man, then Konoha may have to intervene again this time to help Kirigakure village get another Mizukage. Kakashi, this time when you go to Kirigakure village, first confirm the identity of the fourth Mizukage. If it is really confirmed that the other party has been controlled by the masked man, then you will contact a ninja named Terumi Medi in the name of Konoha Touch. Tell her that the Leaf Village can help her become the fifth Mizukage. Terumi Medi, the fifth Mizukage. As soon as Tsunade finished speaking, the girl with long brown hair flashed in Kakashi's mind. Forehead. Kakashi didn't expect that the woman who insisted on competing with him a few years ago would have grown to this point. What's wrong, Kakashi? What's the problem? Looking at Kakashi, who was a little distracted, Tsunade raised her eyebrows. Kakashi, who was always strict about his tasks, was also distracted. She felt something was wrong. Yes, Hokage-sama. Kakashi, who had reacted at this time, immediately lowered his head and said respectfully. Tsunade didn't care too much about this and waved her hand to indicate that Kakashi was ready to go. It's time to introduce you to a partner, Kakashi. Tsunade murmured in her mouth as she watched Kakashi's leaving figure, Shizune, Kyonari, or Anko. After Kakashi on the other side left the Hokage's office, he first returned home and briefly prepared, and then disappeared directly into the Konoha village in a flashpoint in the land of the Thousand Hands clan. What? Naraku yawned and walked out of the room. You could see a trace of obvious fatigue on his face, and the black circles under his eyes were also very obvious. In fact, with the physique of the Uzumaki clan, Naraku's situation is very abnormal, not to mention that he has also mastered the magic of Shigilin. Under normal circumstances, this situation may not happen, even if Naraku does not sleep for 10.5 days. The main reason why he is in such a tired state now is because Naraku's mental power is consumed too much. In the past few days, he has been using multiple shadow clones to speed up the recovery of his eyes. Although the effect was obvious, Naraku clearly felt that his mental energy consumption was very huge, and he was even somewhat damaged. He had no choice but to temporarily stop practicing. I hope I can recover after a few days, Naraku murmured. Tsunade and Jiraiya were in the Hokage's office. Kushina worked at Konoha Hospital. Naruto and Byakuya went to the ninja academy, and apart from a few guards, Naraku was the only one in the huge clan. Naraku rubbed his swollen head, and he felt a sharp pain due to excessive mental energy consumption. Go find my sister and treat her, Naraku thought to himself. He had a similar situation a few days ago. At that time, Hatsune used medical ninjutsu to treat him, and the effect was okay. Thinking of this, Naraku left the clan in a flash. 5 minutes later, a red figure appeared at the door of Konoha Hospital. It was Naraku. Naraku is very familiar with Konoha Hospital. He has been living here for more than 2 years. When Kushina was in coma. Kushina was now the director of Konoha Hospital, and Naraku, who knew where her office was, came straight to the office. Sister. Naraku shouted casually, then opened the door and walked in. However, the next moment, his expression changed. There should be an isolation formation in Kushina's office. He didn't sense any breath just now, but now that he opened the door and came in, he felt 2 breaths. One was the familiar Kushina, and the other was a bit unfamiliar. Master Dean, who is he? Confused. At this moment, a gentle female voice sounded. Kushina was also a little about Naraku's sudden appearance, but looking at the attractive looking girl in front of her, she quickly reacted. Ah, this is my younger brother, Naraku Uzumaki, Kushina introduced with a smile. Naraku, come here and get to know me. This is Kunoe. Kushina waved her hand for Naraku to come forward. Sister, have you forgotten that I'm blind now? Naraku couldn't help but complain in his mind after hearing Kushina's words. Kunoe. Naraku is no stranger to this name. After all, she is a famous beauty in the ninja world. In the original work, Asuma only established his relationship with Kunoe after returning to Konoha village from Daming Mansion. Now, as the Sarutobi clan moved out of Konoha village as a whole 3 years ago, their future lives have also changed. There was no more intersection point in the heart. Asuma is just a good friend that she once had a good relationship with. Although Naraku here was a little helpless, but forced by Kushina's request, he still stepped forward and stretched out his hand. Hello, I'm Uzumaki Naraku. Looking at the handsome red-haired man in front of him, the red face in his 20s turned slightly red. Regarding Uzumaki Naraku, although Kunoe has not greeted him directly, Kunoe is also a ninja after all, and a ninja who is about to become a Jounin. So Han had heard a lot of rumors about the man in front of her. Chapter 215. He is really a vengeful beast. Inside Konoha Hospital. Ah, you practicing with multiple shadow clones again? Kushina frowned slightly and looked at Naraku lying on the hospital bed. Your mental energy has been exhausted too much, and you have even been damaged to a certain extent. You must rest for a while. Naraku stood up from the hospital bed with a helpless expression. He just wanted Kushina to help him use medical ninjutsu to relieve his headache, but he didn't expect that Kushina would insist on doing a full body examination on him. After using various instruments, Kushina checked Naraku's current mental state. Mental damage. Han, who was pulled over by Kushina because the hospital was short of manpower, muttered. Suddenly she seemed to have thought of something, and the corners of her mouth raised slightly, revealing a smile. Sister, I told you that there's nothing wrong with me. I just have a headache. You shouldn't be like this, Naraku said helplessly. Kushina ignored him at all and pushed him back to the bed. Then she walked to the bed with a syringe and 2 bottles of potion. She was going to put 2 bottles of intravenous drip on Naraku. In fact, Kushina knew very well that with the physique of their Uzumaki clan, the nutrition produced by the intravenous drip was not as much as the nutrition automatically produced by their physique. The reason why she wanted to put Naraku on the intravenous drip was not to restore his body or something, but I just want Naraku to be more honest. Kushina knew her rebellious brother very well. If he was relieved, he would definitely use multiple shadow clones to practice again. Kushina even had a plan in mind, and she was going to give Naraku a week. I have a ninjutsu here that can cultivate spiritual power. Do you want to try it? At this moment, Han's gentle voice came into the ears of the two of them. She said, holding a scroll, and handed it to Kushina. Kushina was slightly taken aback by this. She thought of Kunoe's father, Kunoe, who was a true master of illusions. The illusions he used were difficult to break even for the Uchiha clan, who were good at eye magic. After much hesitation, in order to save Naraku from suffering, Kushina finally reached out and took the scroll. Thank you very much, Hang. You're welcome, Dean. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Hang then left. Kushina threw the scroll directly to Naraku. Okay, you have nothing to do here. Kushina opened her mouth and ordered the guests to be kicked out. At this time, Naraku was a little confused. Although he really wanted to learn this ninjutsu that could cultivate spiritual power, he couldn't see with his eyes at this time. Even if he handed the scroll to him, it would be useless. But then Naraku knew what Kushina was thinking. A wry smile appeared on his lips, and then Naraku slowly stood up and left the ward. Sister, you are instigating minors to commit crimes. Naraku murmured in his mouth. When he walked to the door of the hospital, he opened Kaguya's inner eye. After sensing the familiar breath, he disappeared at the door of the hospital in a flash. Not long after, two figures appeared outside the Thousand Hands Clan's clan. One person has short red hair, a cultivated figure, and a handsome appearance. He is Naraku. As for the other person, he has black curly hair and a pair of red pupils on his fair face. He is Hang Point. In order to learn this ninjutsu that can cultivate spiritual power as soon as possible, Naraku finally invited Hang over and asked her to teach him personally. Hang did not refuse and then came to the Senju clan's clan with Naraku. Outside Kirigakure village. At this time, Sarutobi Yiming had already started a fierce battle with Terumi Mei. It could be seen that the entire bridge was affected by the battle between the two and was directly disconnected in the middle. Roar. Sarutobi lowered his head and roared like a wild beast, and then a violent energy emitted from his body. Then 5 dark red-tailed beasts appeared behind him, and at the same time, Sarutobi Yiming's body became twisted. His body, which was originally standing on 2 feet, was bent and became like a wild beast. Wow. Wow. An invisible airflow circulated around Sarutobi Yiming's body, and the airflow lifted up streams of water. It turned out to be the missing Vulpix. Terumi, who was standing opposite him, stared intently, and then a killing intent burst out from her body. The 6 tails was originally the tailed beast of Kirigakure village. He disappeared together with the Jinchuriki Ugeo many years ago. Terumi Mei once thought that, after solving the 4th Mizukage, she would send people to find her after the situation in Kirigakure village stabilized. Vulpixes. What she didn't expect was that Vulpix would appear in front of her again and come to assassinate her. Melt escape. The art of melting monsters. After Terumi Mei quickly formed seals with her hands, she opened her mouth and spat out a ball of red acid that looked like fire at Sarutobi Yiming in front of her. The acid liquid not only has strong viscosity, but also has strong high temperature. Wherever the acid liquid passes, a burst of white mist fills the air on the other side. Sarutobi Yiming, a newborn calf, was not afraid of tigers. There was a touch of disdain on his beast-like face, and then he flashed and rushed directly towards the acid. You're really looking for death. Terumi Mei sneered when she saw this. You must know that her melting release confused even the hardest steel. Laugh. Sarutobi Yiming's body rushed into the acid liquid. Almost instantly, a burst of white mist rose from his body, and then his body rushed out from the other side in a rather embarrassed state. Well, at this time, Sarutobi gritted his teeth and let out a cry of pain. Several tatters could be seen on his tailed beast's coat, which was formed by dense dark red energy. A burning smell came from him. The next moment, an even more violent energy emitted from Sarutobi Yiming's body again, and the originally broken tailed beast's coat became complete again. Even though he used the tailed beast chakra to repairing the tailed beast's coat, Sarutobi Yiming couldn't be happy at this time. At that moment, he had already realized the horror of acid. It is no exaggeration to say that, if it were not for the powerful recovery ability endowed by the first generation cells, then even with the protection of the tailed beast coat, he would not have been able to escape. Haha, you are really a beast that can't be beaten. Terumi sneered, then raised her hands and quickly seals. Boiling escape, the art of Kao mist. Terumi Mei put her hand to her mouth, then opened her mouth and spit out formed a thick grey mist. The dense fog emits extremely high temperatures, evaporating the air wherever it passes. At this moment, Sarutobi's heart was ringing with alarm, and he did not dare to hesitate at all. He exerted force with both hands and feet, and his figure quickly retreated. With the experience last time, he didn't dare to touch this white mist. Chapter 216 Confrontation in Eye Power. Outside Kirigakure village point after Terumi Medi used boiling release and melting release, Sarutobi Ikume completely fell into passivity point today. After Medi Terumi has grown up in the past few years, she has already possessed the powerful strength of the shadow level by virtue of the two powerful blood inheritance limits of boiling escape and melting escape. In the final analysis, Sarutobi Ikume can only barely use the power of the tailed beasts, but the six-tailed beasts are relatively weak among the tailed beasts, so his strength can only barely reach the cage level at best. However, even with cage level strength, Sarutobi Kazuma is still at the bottom of the cage level. When he meets a true cage level powerhouse like Terumi Medi, he will only get beaten. Sarutobi Ikume has most of the first generation cells transplanted into his body, and he also has unlimited chakra brought by the tailed beasts. He only has this level of combat power. It's really disappointing. In the darkness, a white figure spoke murmured. The white figure was Beiju's clone. A sneer flashed across his face at this moment, and then he slowly dived into the ground. However, for the sake of the Vulpix in your body, you can't die now, he thought to himself, and then his body dived underground. Not long after, Beizetsu's body appeared next to Sarutobi Ikume. You? Sarutobi Ikume frowned slightly, and looked at the white Zetsu clone beside him. He didn't know much about white Zetsu, but he only knew that the other person was an ally with them for the time being. In fact, I have always felt a little strange about Beizetsu Sarutobi Ikume. He sensed a very familiar aura on Beizetsu's body. The substance on his body was similar to the first generation cells implanted in him since he was a child. Beizetsu here didn't say anything when he faced Sarutobi Ikume's inquiry. He just stepped in front of him and blocked him from the attack of Terumi Medi's Kaki Mist Jutsu. Sarutobi Ikume's beast-like eyes trembled slightly. He understood Beizetsu's meaning instantly, and without any hesitation, he ran forward in a flash. Terumi Medi here, after seeing Sarutobi Ikume running away into the distance, hesitated slightly and gave up the idea of continuing to track. Further inside is the Kirigakure village. If you attack directly in the village, it will easily affect some civilians, so Terumi Medi decided to let the other party go for the time being. However, she already had the idea in her heart of completely overturning the relationship with the fourth Mizukage, so even if Sarutobi Kazuaki is gone now, they will still meet sooner or later. With this thought in her mind, Terumi Medi lowered her head and glanced at the charred black substance that fell on the ground, and then left the place in a flash. But what she didn't notice was that just when she left, the black substance on the ground seemed to squirm. A secluded place in Kirigakure village. Two figures appeared here. They had black hair and two deep ravines on their faces. They were Uchiha Itachi. The other silver-haired figure was Kakashi, who had just arrived at Kirigakure village. At this time, they were all staring at the same person, with green hair and purple eyes, and a stitch-like scar under his left eye. It was none other than the fourth Mizukage, Goju Yagura. I saw him walking down the street at this time, with several guards following him. When the passing villagers saw him, they all looked like they were afraid to avoid him. Kakashi and Itachi couldn't help but shake their heads secretly when they saw this scene. The fourth Mizukage could only use the word failure to describe him for achieving this. Even the civilians of Kirigakure village no longer believe in him. If Terumi Medi does not overthrow the rule of the fourth Mizukage in the future, then only destruction awaits Kirigakure village in the future. The two of them followed the fourth Mizukage's movements invisibly until they reached a slightly remote location. The fourth Mizukage stopped and then turned around to look at where Kakashi and the two were. What's wrong, Mizukage-sama? The guard on the side obviously hadn't noticed anything yet and asked with some confusion. Yagura didn't say anything to explain this. He just raised his hands to quickly form seals, and then a low drink came from his mouth. Water. Escape. Water dragon bullet. Wow. The next moment, a large amount of water suddenly rose up from the ground, and then the water slowly rose into the sky to form a blue water dragon. The water dragon opened its mouth and rushed towards a big tree not far ahead. It seems that he has been discovered, Kakashi muttered in the big tree, and then he disappeared there in a flash. Fire. Escape. A powerful fireball technique. Suddenly, a low voice came. A red flame appeared in front of the water dragon. The flames condensed rapidly and soon formed a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 3 meters. Boom. The fireball and the water dragon collided and produced a huge roar. Who are you? At the same time, the guards of the 4th Mizukage looked at Kakashi, who appeared in front with extremely vigilant eyes. Swish. At this moment, a dark shadow flashed, and Itachi's figure appeared next to Kakashi. In order not to reveal their identities, both of them were wearing animal masks and their clothes were changed into loose black robes. Ignoring the guards' questions, Kakashi and Itachi looked at each other, then both of them took action at the same time. Swish. Kakashi's figure attacked the guards. With his strength, he appeared in front of one of them almost instantly, holding a kunai, and stabbing that person. Puff. The next moment, a red blood splashed out, and a wound could be seen on the man's abdomen. A touch of pain appeared on his face, and then his body swayed back. Next, Kakashi's figure flashed out at a very fast speed, and several guards who were barely able to reach the level of Jounin fell to the ground with their stomachs covered before they could sustain a few moves in his hands. As for Itachi and the 4th Mizukage on the other side, they looked a little strange. They were looking at each other, as if they were having a mental confrontation. Hitori, is it true that the 4th Mizukage has been controlled by the masked man? Kakashi's expression changed slightly. He felt the strong pupil power in both the 4th Mizukage and Itachi. Fortunately, Itachi was a pure-blood Uchiha clan after all, and had also opened the main Gekai Sharingan, so it was normal for the pupil power to be strong. But the 4th Mizukage is a bit abnormal. How come he has pupil power in his body, and it is still very similar to the Sharingan? At this time, Kakashi sensed that the two eye powers were engaged in a fierce confrontation. Suddenly, a powerful life force burst out on Itachi's body, and then a black triangular windmill appeared in his eyes, and he opened the main Gekai Sharingan. I saw that the two pupil powers that were originally evenly matched suddenly became a one-sided situation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217. Your hands are stretched too long. Well, on the field, just after Itachi activated the main Gekai Sharingan, the 4th Mizukage suddenly covered his head and let out a cry of pain, as if his spirit was attacked. At this time, Itachi's expression changed slightly, and he saw that the pupil power that he had originally suppressed actually started to explode, and to a certain extent, it even surpassed Itachi's pupil power in an instant. But in the end, this eye power was suppressed by Itachi. At this time, Itachi was convinced of one thing in his heart, that is, the 4th generation Mizukage god Ichibana Yagura has indeed been controlled by someone, and it is very likely that he used Sharingan controlled. Itachi frowned slightly. In fact, he could now unlock the control of the 4th Mizukage, but after a brief thought, he temporarily gave up the idea, and then he turned to look at Kakashi. Itachi nodded to Kakashi, which meant that the information that the 4th Mizukage was controlled had been confirmed. Kakashi's expression changed slightly at this, and then he looked at the 4th Mizukage with complicated eyes, and a killing intent emanated from him. There is one thing that Kakashi has never forgotten, that is, the night when Minato died in the battle. The Three Tails, the 4th generation Mizukage, were also involved. Even though the 4th Mizukage was controlled, Kakashi didn't mind getting rid of him this time. Anyway, Tsunade's order was to let him and Itachi assist Harumi after confirming that the 4th Mizukage was a masked person. Ming defeated the opponent. Now that he has confirmed this matter, even if he is killed directly now, it will have no impact. Anyway, the Mizukage of Kirigakure village has to be replaced. It is just a matter of sooner or later. Just when Kakashi was about to take action, a sound of space vibration was heard, and a vortex suddenly appeared in the originally smooth space in front of him. It's the masked man. Kakashi's pupils shrank, and then he stepped forward and put his hands on Itachi's shoulders, and then used the flying thunder god technique to take Itachi out of here. Just after they left, Obito appeared here wearing a black robe and a mask. This is? His eyes fell on the 4th Mizukage who was still covering his head. His pupils trembled for a moment, and then he opened the main Gekkai Sharingan without hesitation, and then a powerful pupil power was released from his right eye. Go out. The eye power slowly penetrated into the body of the fourth Mizukage. This is the power of the main Gekkai Sharingan, isn't it? Obito murmured in his mouth. Looking at the fourth Mizukage who was gradually recovering, Obito's only exposed right eye exuded a coldness. Konoha, your hands are stretched too far. Madara-sama, why are you here? The fourth Mizukage's voice sounded. He had fully recovered and showed an unexpected expression after seeing Obito. Did someone just attack you? Obito didn't say much about this. He just asked what happened just now. As he spoke, Obito looked around, and his eyes fell on the guards lying on the ground. It should be someone from the Leaf Village, the fourth Mizukage said slowly. He judged the identity of the other person based on Itachi's scarlet eyes. He has the same eyes as you, Madara-sama. It is indeed them, Obito said with a sharp light flashing in his eyes. Swish. At this moment, a figure flashed in front of the two of them. The figure was wearing a black robe, making it difficult to see his face. Sarutobi. IQ failed. We just got the news. After Terumi Mei returned to the village, many people in Kirigakure village are already preparing to contact him. The next moment, a familiar voice came from within the black robe. It was the captain. Tibetan point at this time, Danzo has assumed the identity of the elder of Kirigakure village. Although he has just arrived in Kirigakure village, he has already obtained a lot of information through his own means, including many Terumi and others who want to overthrow the fourth Mizukage. Things to rule point. However, it was precisely because of knowing this information that Danzo looked a little ugly at this time. For Danzo, who has always been in a high position, he quickly understood the current situation in Kirigakure village. Terumi Mifang was already preparing to take action against the fourth Mizukage in front of him. Danzo even felt that if he and Sarutobi Kazuma came a little later, they might not be able to see the fourth Mizukage by then, but even now the situation is not optimistic. Unless the masked man in front of him can lead others to deal with Terumi Mei's side first, even if the fourth Mizukage is alive, he will not be able to completely control Kirigakure village. However, Danzo may not be aware that, just when he is worried about the fourth Mizukage, his good days will not last long, and he will return to the Pure Land soon. Danzo then explained the current situation in Kirigakure village to Obito. You are really a waste. After learning about the current situation in Kirigakure village, Obito turned to look at the fourth Mizukage's side and couldn't help but cursed in his heart. In fact, Obito didn't care much about the development of Kirigakure village. To put it bluntly, the reason why he controlled the fourth Mizukage was just to take revenge on Kirigakure village. He will never forget that Lin was killed by Kirigakure. After a little hesitation, Obito finally decided to stay and help the fourth Mizukage deal with Terumi Mei's matter. Although he doesn't care about the life and death of the fourth Mizukage and Danzo, the fourth Mizukage and Sarutobi Ikuma all have tailed beasts in their bodies, and now Konoha has also sent people to Kirigakure village. So for the sake of caution, Obito decided to stay in Kirigakure village first. He didn't want the three tails and six tails already in his hands to be kidnapped by the Leaf village again. Perhaps for the sake of safety, Obito returned to the cave and brought Uchiha Sasuke over, making him and Sarutobi Kazuma the guards of the fourth Mizukage. A mansion in Kirigakure village. Terumi Mei, who had just returned to the village, appeared here. It can be seen that, although the courtyard here looks very luxurious from the outside, when you walk inside, you will find that this mansion is almost abandoned. You can see that the mansion is overgrown with weeds, as if no one has lived there for more than 10 years. This is Terumi Mei's home. In fact, Terumi Mei's family was also a famous blood-stained family in Kirigakure village. Her parents were both from wealthy families in Kirigakure village. Terumi Mei inherited the two blood limits of boiling release and melting release from her parents. Just like the Kaguya clan, Terumi Mei's parents' clan was brutally wiped out by the fourth Mizukage, and Terumi Mei is lucky enough to survive until now by hiding her identity. Terumi Mei returned here for the first time since her family was wiped out. Looking at the familiar scenes around her, a trace of reminiscence flashed in her eyes. Suddenly, Terumi Mei's expression changed. She turned her head sharply and looked aside, shouting, "Who Chapter 218 Let me help you become the 5th Mizukage. In an abandoned mansion in Kirigakure village, Terumi Mei stared ahead warily, where there was a patch of weeds as tall as an adult. Call out, call out, call out. With a slight swing of his right arm, several shurikens rushed forward at great speed in an instant. Point clang, clang, but the next moment, a silver short blade appeared, knocking down all the shurikens, and then a silver figure appeared in Terumi Mei's sight. Point with long silver hair, a black mask, and a slender figure. This person is Kakashi. It's you. Kakashi's appearance was beyond Terumi Mei's expectation, and his beautiful eyes were full of surprise. Point swish. At this moment, a figure flashed and appeared beside Terumi Mei. Point the person who came was wearing a black eye patch, and it was Ao. At this time, he was looking at Kakashi in front of him with vigilance. He took a step forward with a kunai to block Terumi Mei's front. What are the ninjas of Konoha doing in our Kirigakure village? Compared to Ao's vigilance, Terumi Mei became unnoticeably more relaxed after discovering that the person coming was Kakashi. In the past few years, Terumi Mei often had to go out on missions, so she had met Kakashi several times. Of course, as long as he meets Kakashi, Terumi Mei will pull him to have a sparring session with him. After all, it is rare to see a strong shadow level sparring partner, especially since the only cage level experts in Kirigakure village were her and the 4th Mizukage. There was no way she could invite the 4th Mizukage to compete. Ao, step back, Kakashi will not hurt me. At this moment, Terumi Mei's slightly smiling voice reached Ao's ears. Master Terumi Mei. King was still a little worried, but Terumi Mei had already spoken, so he couldn't say anything else. Ao took a step back and stood beside Terumi Mei, his wary eyes still on Kakashi. Forehead. Kakashi smiled helplessly at this, but he could also understand Ao's approach. In Ao's eyes, Terumi Mei was the future 5th Mizukage, and he was just a ninja from another village. If someone from other villages approached Tsunade rashly, Kakashi would have had the same reaction as Ao, or even a stronger reaction. Not only our famous Silver Fang Flash. Why are you coming to our Kirigakure village this time? At this moment, Terumi asked Kakashi. A strange color flashed in a pair of beautiful eyes. Kakashi hesitated slightly and then said, I'll help you become the 5th Mizukage. Terumi Mei's face changed slightly when she heard this, but then a smile appeared on her face. Help me become the 5th Mizukage. In what capacity? As she spoke, Terumi Mei's eyes looked at Kakashi carefully. Kakashi was slightly stunned by this, and a look of helplessness appeared on his face. In fact, he didn't want to come to Kirigakure village, because Terumi Mei has become more and more abnormal recently, and he likes to make some abnormal actions when he has nothing to do. Cough. Cough. Kakashi coughed and spoke. We in Konoha can help you become the 5th Mizukage, but there is one condition. Kirigakure village must become an ally with Konoha. Become allies. Haha, Konoha village would really have such an idea. Terumi Mei sneered. Although she is not old, she can see some things very clearly. She is also aware of the news that Tsunagakure village and Konoha village have formed an alliance. Konoha village and the 5th Hokage's ambitions have been revealed throughout the ninja world. Therefore, Terumi Mei would never believe the idea of forming an alliance. She rejected Kakashi without thinking. Terumi Mei's reaction was something Kakashi didn't expect. He was a little surprised, but there was a gleam in his eyes. His eyes fell on Terumi Mei, and he spoke slowly. The 4th Mizukage has been controlled by someone, and now he has invited a few helpers. You really don't plan to cooperate with Konoha? Terumi Mei's face changed slightly when she heard this, but she still didn't agree. In fact, she also had some guesses about the 4th Mizukage being controlled by someone, because Yagura was not like this before, but she didn't know when her temperament changed drastically, and then she allowed Kirigakure village to develop. This is the current situation. I hope you will think about it and inform me with this. After you think about it, Kakashi left a kunai engraved with the mark of the Flying Thunder God and left here in a flash. Let's form an alliance. Terumi Mei carefully looked at the kunai in her hand, and a strange color flashed in her beautiful eyes. Swish, swish. At this moment, several figures appeared here, and they all bowed to Terumi Mei. Miss. Terumi Mei's expression changed slightly at this. These people were all her father's old subordinates, and they were the former guards of their clan. Subsequently, more and more people appeared in this mansion, and Terumi Mei also sent people to clean up the place thoroughly. The reason why Terumi Mei returned to the house openly was because besides summoning his old subordinates, he also had a more obvious purpose. That was a declaration of war. She appeared in the clan of a race that had been massacred by the 4th Mizukage's order. The meaning she wanted to express was very clear, that is, she was declaring war on the 4th Mizukage. And those who come to visit her in the mansion are also those who support her. 3 days later, Terumi Mei's series of actions had completely taken shape after fermentation. For a time, Kirigakure village was polarized, and the battle between the Yondaime Mizukage's family and Terumi Mei's family had been put on the bright side. All the existing ninjas in Kirigakure village, even just one chunin, are hesitating about which team they want to be on. In fact, most ninjas want to be in Terumi Mei's line in their hearts, because the things the 4th Mizukage once did have chilled most people in Kirigakure village. But even if they think so in their hearts, most people still choose to wait and see. They are very aware of the cruelty of the 4th Mizukage. If they choose Terumi Mei at this time point after Terumi Mei failed with the cruelty of the 4th Mizukage, the only thing waiting for them would be death. Late at night, a masked figure sneaked into the place where the 4th Mizukage lived. The homeland of the Wolfberry family. The Goju family is the family of the 4th Mizukage. It is only a small family in Kirigakure village, but because of the existence of the 4th Mizukage, this family has become the first family in Kirigakure village. In fact, if it weren't for the small number of people in their family, the title of first family would have already fallen on them. This figure appeared in the courtyard in a flash. After carefully confirming the position, the figure sneaked into one of the houses. From the long brown hair, it could be seen that this person was Terumi Mei. Sure enough, he is from the 4th generation. Terumi Mei suddenly seemed to sense something, and thought to himself. Chapter 219. Did you deliver it to your door? Wuin village, in the territory of the Gaoju clan. In a hidden room, Obito, who was wearing an orange mask, and closing his eyes to rest, seemed to have noticed something. The next moment, his scarlet right eye flashed out, shining coldly in the dark night. You delivered it to your door yourself, Terumi Mei. Then he disappeared in a flashpoint. At the same time, in the courtyard, Terumi Mei, who was thinking about whether to make a scene or not, suddenly felt a chill in her heart. Without any hesitation, she kicked her feet on the ground and retreated as fast as she could. Then a figure wearing a black robe appeared where she was standing just now. Wearing a black robe and an orange tiger pattern mask, only the exposed right eye was shining with a dazzling red light. The person coming was none other than Obito Sharingan, from the Uchiha clan. Looking at that scarlet eye, Terumi Mei thought to herself, aha, aha, aha. At this moment, 3 more figures appeared on the field. It was the 4th Mizukage, Sarutobi Ikume, and Uchiha Zuosuke. 4 people stood around Terumi Mei and surrounded her. Gudu. Perhaps because he had seen Terumi Mei's power before, this time Sarutobi directly exploded the tailed beast chakra as soon as he screamed, and saw liquid like dark red energy pouring out of his body, and then the dark red energy poured out his body is completely wrapped. It's the tailed beast coat. Uchiha Sasuke, who was standing next to him, was not to be outdone when he saw this. His eyes exploded with power, and the next moment, a black 4-cornered pinwheel pattern appeared in his eyes. A strong momentum burst out from the 2 of them. Seeing this situation, Terumi Mei's face was solemn. Although she was very confident in her own strength, it was still a bit unrealistic to fight 1 against 4. Boiling escape, the art of Kao mist. After quickly forming seals with her hands, Terumi Mei opened her mouth and spat out a cloud of grey-white thick fog. The thick fog was a product of the changes in the properties of water and fire. The thick fog was boiling and had strong corrosive power. The moment the thick fog appeared, Sarutobi Yiming's face changed slightly. He knew very well the power of this thick fog. Even the tailed beast's coat was difficult to resist. However, compared to his nervousness, the other 3 were much calmer. Among them, Sayosuke may have not seen the power of thick fog, but Obito and the 4th Mizukage were confident. Especially Obito. He saw the pupil power of his right eye explode, and then he stretched out his left hand, and a space vortex appeared in his palm. The next moment, a strong suction force appeared on the space vortex. I saw that thick fog slowly approaching the space vortex, and then slowly being absorbed into the divine power space. It turned out to be a space ninjutsu. Terumi Mena's eyes trembled when she saw this. This was the first time she had seen her clever mist technique being cracked so easily. Boom. At this moment, a powerful aura rose up on the field. It was the fourth Mizukage. He jumped and attacked Terumi Mena. A dark red energy could be seen quickly pouring out of him. Almost instantly, he completed the state of half-tailed beast. The dark red-tailed beast coat wrapped his whole body, and two tails formed of dark red energy appeared behind him. As one of the very few Jinkriki who can perfectly master the power of tailed beasts, the power that the fourth Mizukage can unleash is completely unmatched by a guy like Sarutobi Ikumi. Coral Palm. A hoarse voice came from his mouth, and then a very intimidating palm slapped Terumi Mena in front of him. Terumi Mena's pupils were shocked at this. She was no stranger to the moves of the fourth Mizukage. If she was hit by this palm, it would be difficult for her to leave here today. Chakra surged out of her body crazily, and then she kicked her feet on the ground, and her whole body moved backwards at a high speed. While her body was retreating, her hands were also forming seals quickly. Melt. Escape. The art of melting monsters. After a low drink, Terumi Mena opened her mouth and spat out a ball of red acid. Hot heat came from the acid, and then the ball of acid rushed straight towards the fourth Mizukage in front. Wind. Escape. The typhoon has passed. The fourth Mizukage's face slightly condensed in response to this. He did not dare to be careless at all. Whether it is boiling escape or melting escape, they are extremely powerful blood successors in Wuin village. When he originally ordered the annihilation of these two clans, he lost a large number of elites. Wind escape. The typhoon has passed. Three giant tails sprang out from behind, sweeping in front of him, and then a fierce wind appeared. The wind howled past, and in the blink of an eye, it was submerged into the crimson acid liquid in front of him. Laugh. The next moment, a burst of white mist appeared in the air, and the strong wind could not shake the red acid liquid at all. Boom. The acid burned the air, and rushed forward unabated. Obito on the side narrowed his right eye slightly. Terumi Mena's strength was somewhat beyond his expectation, but in his opinion, with such strength, she would definitely not be able to leave today. Call out. At this moment, several sounds of breaking through the air were heard, and several fist-sized stones were seen emerging from the darkness, and rushing towards Terumi Mena at extremely high speed. Terumi Mena's expression changed slightly at this. She felt an abnormal energy on the stone. Without any hesitation, she opened her mouth and spat out a ball of red acid that enveloped her body. Acid not only has strong viscosity and corrosiveness, but also has good defensive capabilities because of these two properties. Boom. The next moment, the stone fell on the acid, causing a splash of red water droplets. Laugh. These red water drops fell on the ground and corroded the ground instantly. Thanks to the strong viscosity of the acid, all the stones were attached to the acid, and Terumi Mena was not harmed in any way. Haha, blasted for me. But at the next moment, a loud shout sounded, and then a strange energy flashed out from the stones. Almost instantly, Terumi Mena's expression changed drastically. Boom. Suddenly, several violent explosions sounded on the field, and the rocks attached to Terumi Mena exploded like bombs. The powerful impact set off a burst of smoke, and then the red flames instantly submerged Terumi Mena's body. It's over. Uchiha Sasuke's slightly satisfied voice sounded on the field, but no one replied to him. Sarutobi Iming looked cautiously into the smoke. At this time, after he was ravaged by Kakashi, Naraku and Terumi Mena, his mind was much more mature than before. At least he would not be like before. Arrogant. At the same time, Sarutobi Iming also knew that his strength was not enough, and he even had a feeling that Danzo and the third were about to abandon him. This feeling alerted Sarutobi Ichimari. He knew that he had to show some value, otherwise it would only be a matter of time before he was abandoned as a pawn. Chapter 220 Kakashi beats the tailed beast Jade hard. In the clan of the Gauji clan. After the aftermath of the explosion completely dissipated, a beautiful figure appeared in everyone's sight. It was Terumi Mena. At this moment, her whole body was covered in red acid, and wisps of white smoke rose from her body. It was actually blocked. Uchiha Sasuke. who was not far away, looked shocked. He didn't expect that his trick would be broken like this. But at this moment, a violent energy rose beside him. It was Sarutobi Yiming. He was lying on all fours at this time, and 5 tails formed by dark red energy was swaying behind him. Sarutobi Yiming, who was lying on the ground, opened his mouth. A violent energy gathered in front of him, and then a spherical object appeared in front of everyone. Tail Beast Jade. Looking at the small black purple ball in front of Sarutobi Iknum, Obito and the 4th Mizukage exclaimed in their hearts at the same time. Then without hesitation, the two of them stepped back at the same time. It was obvious that they did not want to be affected by the Tail Beast Jade wave. At this time, the 4th Mizukage was very lucky that he had allowed his clan members to move out of the clan area in advance. Otherwise, in a situation like today, their already sparsely populated Gaoju clan might have been wiped out. Not only them, Terumi Mei also noticed the extremely powerful energy at this time. "This is the power of the tailed beast," she murmured in her mouth, and then chakra exploded throughout her body. Terumi Mei was ready to evacuate. Although she blocked the explosion of rocks just now, the chakra in her body had been consumed. Most of it. If she continues to stay here, the situation will only get worse for her. Would release the thorn killing technique. But just when she was about to make a move, a voice from Tsunagakure sounded on the field. It was Obito. At this moment, he quickly formed seals with his hands, and then let out a low drink. Boom. Boom. In an instant, the ground around Terumi Mei shattered, and wooden vines rose up from the ground, and swept towards her. Boom. At the same time, a violent force was approaching her at an extremely fast speed. It was a black-purple spherical object, which was the Tail Beast Jade. Wherever the Tail Beast Jade passed, the ground rolled and cracks appeared. Terumi Mei's expression changed dramatically. She was entangled in vines, and was temporarily unable to avoid the attack of the tailed beast. However, she may not have noticed that the black magic spell printed on the kunai given to her by Kakashi was flickering on her body. At the same time, in a hotel not far from here, Kakashi, who had just been lying on the bed to rest, seemed to have noticed something. After his face changed for a while, he formed a mark with one hand, and the next moment his figure disappeared directly. Inside the hotel. Obito looked at Terumi Mei, who was about to be hit by the tailed beast Jade, with an indifferent expression. There was no trace of pity in his heart. It's all about true peace. But, at this moment, his right eye narrowed slightly, and then he saw a silver-haired figure appear, blocking Terumi Mei's front. Kakashi. Obito was a little surprised. He didn't expect Kakashi to appear here. It's Kakashi, who had just appeared here, didn't have time to take a closer look at his surroundings. When he looked up, he only saw the tailed beast that was rushing towards him. "Kakashi, this is a tailed beast, be careful when dealing with it." The second tail's voice sounded in his mind, and Kakashi frowned slightly when he heard this. The next moment, a silver long knife appeared in his hand, and then a violent aura burst out from his body. Thunder slash. Without any hesitation, Kakashi held the sword in both hands. His whole body was wrapped in violent thunder energy, and then he swung the sword fiercely. Crack. Crack. Visible to the naked eye, dense thunder and lightning gathered on the long knife, and the sound of thunder trembled. The long sword engulfed by thunder and lightning turned into a thunder and lightning sword and slashed forward. At this time, the tailed beast Jade had already rushed to Kakashi. Boom. After a loud noise, the lightning sword light and the tailed beast Jade collided hard together. Boom. Boom. Almost instantly, many cracks appeared on the long knife in Kakashi's hand, but the next moment, Kakashi's figure flashed, and he left here with the tailed beast Jade. Just 2 seconds later, his body appeared in front of everyone again. Boom. A violent explosion sounded to everyone's ears, and they could clearly see a ball of fire rising into the sky not far from Kirigakure village, where the tailed beast Jade exploded. The masked man, Sarutobi Iknum, and others? Kakashi, who returned to the field, carefully examined the situation. He was not surprised by the appearance of the masked men. The last time he came into contact with Itachi and the 4th Mizukage, he had already discovered traces of the masked men. A member of the Uchiha clan also possesses the main Gekkai Sharingan. It seems that he is Uchiha Sasuke. After his eyes stayed on Uchiha Sasuke for a moment, Kakashi turned around and walked at Terumi Mena's side point at this time. Terumi had also cracked Obito's wood release and looked at Kakashi in front of her with a pair of beautiful eyes filled with strange colors. She was very surprised by Kakashi's appearance point, but what shocked her even more at this time was Kakashi's strength. He could defend the tail beast Jade with his own ability. I'm afraid there are only a few people in the entire ninja world who can do this. Just as shocked as Terumi Medi were Sarutobi Kazumi, Uchiha Zuosuke and the 4th Mizukage point, especially Sarutobi Yiming. His beastly face showed an expression of disbelief at this time. You must know that the attack just now was the strongest attack he could unleash point, but he didn't expect to be blocked by Kakashi alone point. The same goes for the 4th Mizukage and Zuosuke on the side. The former is the most aware of the power of the tail beast Jade. Although the tail beast Jade released by Sarutobi Kazumi just now is not the most complete, it is similar in power even in his complete tail beast form. He didn't dare to withstand that blow point compared to the shock of these people. Obito and Kakashi seemed very calm point compared to Kakashi's performance just now. Obito has seen a more shocking method, which is the scene where his teacher, the 4th Hokage, transferred the 9-tailed beast. You must know that the Kyuubi is the strongest tailed beast, and it was still a complete Kyuubi at the time. The tailed beast Jade released by Sarutobi Yiming cannot be compared with the tailed beast Jade released by the 9-tails. The two are obviously not on the same level, but Minato teleported the entire tailed beast Jade away by himself. It was obvious that there was still a big gap between Kakashi and Minato in terms of attainments in the Flying Thunder God technique. Chapter 221 Stop looking down on others. Uchiha Itachi. In the clan of the Gouji clan. Just after Kakashi returned here, the two groups began to confront each other. Although Kakashi's side did not have an advantage in terms of numbers, in Kakashi's eyes, Obito was the only one who could truly regard him as his opponent point. Whether it was Sarutobi Ikage, Uchiha Sasuke, or even the 4th Mizukage, Kakashi had full confidence, and he was not afraid at all, even if the three of them fucked him together. Crack. Crack. Violent blue thunder and lightning surrounded Kakashi. At this time, his momentum surged, and a strong fighting spirit burst out of him. Yakura, the second tail is on him. At this moment, a hoarse voice sounded in the mind of the 4th Mizukage point. The 4th Mizukage's face changed after hearing this. The Flying Thunder God technique, coupled with the 2 tails in his body, is worthy of Konoha's Silver Fang Flash. He already has such powerful strength at such a young age. This kind of talent is no worse than his teacher, Yellow Flash. It would be great if our Kurigakure village could have such a genius, he thought with a trace of loneliness on his face, as if he was worried about the future of Kurigakure village. However, he may not realize in his heart that Kurigakure village can actually have many geniuses, but he has nipped them in the cradle. Just like Terumi Medi in front of her, she is the only one of her generation who has grown up. Kakashi, Obito, who was wearing a mask, had a complex expression, and a trace of hesitation grew in his eyes, just as he was thinking about whether to take action. Swish. A black figure flashed past and stood next to Kakashi point. He had black hair and 2 deep grooves on his face. The person who came was none other than Itachi point. After discovering that Kakashi was not in the hotel, he used some special means to find it. The masked man, Uchiha Sasuke. Itachi, with scarlet eyes, looked up at the figures in front of him. A stern look flashed in his eyes. In Itachi's view, Uchiha Sasuke is a traitor to their clan. No matter what, they will have to deal with him sooner or later. As for the masked man, judging from his proficiency in using the Sharingan, Itachi feels that he is incompatible with the Uchiha clan. It is also inseparable. Itachi Uchiha. Suddenly, a loud shout rang out on the field. It was Uchiha Sasuke. At this time, he could see his eyes were scarlet, and he was looking at Itachi with a look of resentment on his face. For Zuosuke, Itachi and his father were both his enemies. His grandfather, father, and other relatives were all killed by Itachi and the others. In fact, it's more than that. There is another secret in Zuosuke's heart that he has never told, a secret that only he and the dead elder know. Uchiha Zuosuke. In fact, his talent can only be considered average among the Uchiha clan. Not to mention compared with geniuses like Itachi and Shizu, even compared with his younger brother Uchiha Zuosuke, it is still insufficient. And the reason why he was able to open the main Gekkai Sharingan was just because he did one thing, something that was enough to make people feel unconscionable. That is, he killed his mother with his own hands. Yes, after the Great Elder learned from Obito how to activate the main Gekkai Sharingan, he gave Zuosuke the order to kill his mother. Zuosuke himself disagreed, but when the elder said that he would be given the position of head of the Uchiha clan in the future, he was moved. In order to satisfy his desire for power, Zuosuke finally brutally killed himself with a knife. Mother, this pair of main Gekkai Sharingan was awakened at that time. From the perspective of the Great Elder, the death of Zuosuke's mother was undoubtedly a success. There is no comparison between a worthless woman and 2 pairs of main Gekkai Sharingan. Point for Uchiha Sasuke. Although he personally killed his mother, he also recorded this hatred on the Uchiha Itachi family. Point, he thought that if Uchiha Fugaku and the others hadn't forced him, how could his grandfather have thought of rebellion? And how could he have done such a heartless thing in order to gain strength for himself? Rock. Blast. ZUO. G let out a low drink, and then a line of blood and tears fell from his right eye. Point, call out, call out, call out. The next moment, several sounds broke through the air, and several fist-sized stones were seen floating from the ground, and then all of these stones rushed towards Itachi at extremely high speeds. Be careful, these rocks will explode. Terumi Mei, who had already seen the power of stones, reminded her that she didn't think much about Itachi's identity. Since she could stand next to Kakashi, it meant that they were on the same front at this time. Itachi here doesn't need to be reminded by Terumi. He and Naraku have already analyzed the ability of Zuosuke's main Gekkai Sharingan. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. Itachi raised his hands and began to form seals quickly, and then he opened his mouth and spit out a ball of red flames. The red flame turned into a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 3 meters and rushed forward. Haha, the powerful fireball technique. Zuosuke looked at the extremely familiar red fireball in front of him with a hint of disdain on his face. Uchiha. Itachi, you really look down on people. Call out, call out. At this moment, after a burst of air shock, the stones rushed straight into the fireball, and the next moment, red stones like hot iron sprang out of the fireball. Sure. Enough. The stone contains special eye power, but it can't be melted by fire escape. Itachi thought secretly in his heart. Point, the next moment, Itachi raised his hand slightly, and instantly struck out several shurikens. Ding. 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 Then there were several sounds of metal collisions in the air, and several sparks flashed out in the air, as the shurikens collided with the stones. Faced with the impact of the shuriken, the stone visible to the naked eye trembled slightly, as if it was about to fall to the ground. Haha. Fireball. Shuriken. Haha. Stop looking down on others. Uchiha Itachi. At this moment, Zuosuke shouted angrily, and then a powerful impact suddenly erupted on the rocks. Then the next moment, boom, boom. The shurikens were instantly bounced away by him, and then the rocks continued to rush towards Itachi with unabated force. The next moment fell directly on him, but what was surprising was that Itachi seemed to have no feeling at this time, and his body did not move. But the next moment, a crimson light rose from his body, and then the few stones were instantly bounced away by this light, and a powerful power emanated from Itachi's body. Point, until finally, a red half-body skeleton nearly 5 meters high appeared in everyone's sight. Point, it was Susanoo. Chapter 222, Would Escape, The Birth of the Tree World. Susanoo, Obito, murmured, the genius of the Uchiha clan. Haha, the scarlet right eye radiated an endless cold light. After Itachi appeared here, Obito knew that he was going to take action today, no matter what point. If there were only Kakashi and Terumi Mei, Obito was sure to force them back. At the very least, he could use Kami to escape with the 4th Mizukage and the others, but now if Uchiha Itachi was added to the mix, point, if he wanted to take others away, it wouldn't be that easy. Point, Obito raised his hands and began to form seals quickly. However, although he moved quickly, there was someone faster than him. As soon as Obito raised his hands, a blue figure appeared in front of his eyes. It was the person whose whole body was inspected by lightning attributes. Kakashi covered in carrots. At this moment, Kakashi was seen holding a long sword and slashing forward. Point, crack. Crack. I saw dense thunder and lightning concentrated on the long sword. The sound of thunder trembled, and coupled with the blue thunder and lightning surrounding Kakashi, he looked like a thunder god at this time. Stab it. Blue sword light burst out from the blade and rushed straight towards Obito like tearing through the air. In response, Obito's scarlet right eye trembled slightly. Kakashi's sword skills have now become great. Even a casual blow is equally powerful, not to mention the now intimidating Thunder Slash. Without any hesitation, Obito directly used his divine power. After a moment of space shaking, his body instantly became insubstantial, and then the lightning sword light went straight through his body. Kakashi's eyes moved slightly when he saw this scene. He was not surprised by this scene. He had already had several confrontations with the Masked Man, and he already knew the opponent's virtual ability point. Noisy. Blue arcs of electricity flashed around Kakashi, and a violent energy burst out from him. Then he kicked his feet on the ground, turned around with force, and rushed towards the other side. What the? Target is me. Looking at the blue figure that appeared in front of him instantly, a look of fear appeared on Sarutobi Yiming's face. Without any hesitation, violent dark red energy surged out of his body crazily. This time Sarutobi Yiming used all the tail beast energy he could use. At this moment, his body expanded, as if he was about to completely transform into a tail beast point guy. But at this moment, a sound broke through the air, and a blue sword light filled with thunder and lightning appeared. The thunder and lightning sword light tore through the air and struck Sarutobi Yiming, before he could completely transform into a tailed beast. Puff. Almost instantly, a burst of red blood splashed out, and even Sarutobi Yiming, who had a tailed beast coat, still couldn't block Kakashi's sword point. Kakashi quickly swung his sword with both hands, in order to quickly kill one person. In an instant, several thunder and lightning sword lights appeared on the field. Crackling. For a moment, the roar of thunder and lightning could be heard on the field. When the fourth Mizukage on the side saw this scene, he quickly retreated back without hesitation, putting a considerable distance between himself and the two of them. It's this trick again. In Kakashi's consciousness space, Owei, who was resting with his eyes closed, sensed this familiar move, and his expression changed for a while. Vulpix, wish yourself well. With this thought in her mind, chakra surged through her body, and then a powerful chakra slowly dispersed towards the outside, and was finally absorbed into Kakashi's body. After getting along for a long time, he still has this tacit understanding. Isn't it just taking the initiative to pay the rent? I've always been very conscious. Okay. With this thought in his mind, Owei closed his eyes again. Thank you very much. Trip again. After noticing the abundant chakra in his body, Kakashi secretly thought in his heart, then held the sword in both hands. Violent thunder attribute chakra erupted, and then he swung the sword again. Thunder Slash. A low shout came from his mouth, and at this time, several violent thunder and lightning sword lights fell directly on Sarutobi Yiming. Boom, boom, boom. Sounds of energy exploding sounded, and at this moment, Sarutobi Yiming's body was illuminated by dark blue and dark red energy alternately. This is the powerful tail beast energy fighting against the violent thunder attribute energy. But it was obvious that the thunder and lightning sword light released by Kakashi was better in the end. The thunder and lightning sword light suppressed the tail beast's chakra, and then several sword lights fell directly on Sarutobi Yiming. Poof. Poof. Almost instantly, several ferocious wounds appeared on his body. Perhaps the Vulpix realized that Sarutobi Ichimui was in danger, so he voluntarily gave up fighting for his body and still used the tail beast chakra to actively help Sarutobi Ichimui. Ming recovered from his injuries. But even so, Sarutobi Yiming was still too seriously injured at this time. Even though the tail beast chakra and the first generation cells in his body were working hard to help him recover, even so, he could not recover in a short time. It could be seen that there was an extremely hideous wound on Sarutobi Yiming's abdomen. It was a knife wound that almost penetrated his entire abdomen. Haha. At this time, Sarutobi Yiming was lying on the ground, breathing heavily. It is no exaggeration to say that, if it were not for the tail beast sealed in his body and the efficacy of the first generation cells, he would be a dead man now. But even so, he had lost his ability to fight at this time point without any hesitation. Kakashi, who had finished dealing with Sarutobi Ichimui, flashed and rushed towards the fourth Mizukage with a long sword in his hand. Damn it. On the other side, Obito, who was about to take action against Mimei, saw his face change slightly. After a slight hesitation, he appeared on Sarutobi Yiming's body, put his right hand on the opponent's shoulder, and then activated Kamu to transfer him to in the divine space point. After doing this, he turned his head and looked aside, only to see that the fourth Mizukage, who had turned into a half-tailed beast at this time, was completely suppressed by Kakashi, and had no power to fight back at all. Obito frowned slightly. Only now did he realize how far Kakashi had grown. If it weren't for his divine power, he probably wouldn't be able to last long in Kakashi's hands. The expression under Obito's mask gradually became gloomy, and then without hesitation, he flashed towards the battlefield between Kakashi and the fourth Mizukage. He then joined forces with the fourth Mizukage, and was able to barely block Kakashi's attack. It seems I have to use that move, Obito thought to himself. Then he raised his hands, and began to form seals quickly, and then shouted loudly, "Wouldn't escape, the birth of the tree world." Boom. Boom. The next moment, the ground shook violently, and then the ground collapsed downwards, visible to the naked eye. Only thick branches were seen breaking out of the ground. Each branch was like a giant python, constantly squirming. Chapter 223. Today I will tear off your mask. This is the ninjutsu of the first generation. Kakashi looked up at the huge rolling branches in front of him, a flash of shock in his eyes. In the past, he had seen masked men using wood-release ninjutsu, but the power of those wood-release ninjutsu could only be considered good. In Kakashi's mind, he felt that it was only a little stronger than Konoha's Green Master. But it was different now. He could feel the energy contained in the huge branches in front of him. It was obvious that there had been a qualitative change compared to the previous wood-release ninjutsu point. He didn't expect that the maskman could use such a level of wood escape ninjutsu point at this time. Obito's right eye trembled, and a powerful energy burst out from him. He stood on a huge branch, and looked directly at Kakashi with cold eyes. In fact, whether it is Yamato, Beisetsu, Danzo, or Obito himself, the reason why they are able to use the wood-release ninjutsu is because of the first generation cells transplanted into their bodies. In the past, Obito was similar to Yamato and the others. Although he could use wood escape ninjutsu, his power was only average, but now it is different point at this time. Obito's body has completely accepted the first generation cells. Unlike Danzo's transplant, his body has been completely integrated with the first generation cells. In a near perfect fusion, the Uchiha bloodline and the first generation cells were completely integrated. That is to say, after Obito completely accepted the first generation cells, the power of his wood escape ninjutsu was increased several times. Or it can be said that he can only use the real wood escape ninjutsu now. Kakashi's face was solemn at this time, but then a strong fighting spirit rose from him. Would release ninjutsu, let me see what its power is. For Kakashi today, there is nothing that can scare him. To be proud, even if the first generation is standing in front of him at this time, Kakashi still has the courage to swing the sword. Those who are good at swordsmanship should be fearless. Perhaps Kakashi's strength has not yet reached its peak at this time, but he already has a heart to stand at the top. Kakashi, it's time to settle our grudges. Today I will tear off your mask. The two of them secretly whispered in their hearts at the same time, and then the blue light all over Kakashi's body swelled up. He reached out and lifted the forehead protector covering his left eye, and his scarlet eyes appeared. Noisy. The next moment, violent thunder attribute chakra burst out from his body, and then Kakashi held a long knife and transformed into a blue shadow and rushed towards Obito in the sea of trees. Upon seeing this, Obito's eyes narrowed slightly, and a strong fighting spirit also rose from his body. Boom. Boom. The huge branches kept rolling, making trembling sounds, and then all of these branches rushed towards Kakashi. Kakashi raised his hand and held the long knife across his chest, and then swung the knife fiercely. Stab it. A blue sword light flashed across the dark night sky, and the sword light was covered with blue thunder and lightning, and the sound of thunder trembled. Boom. The lightning sword burst out and collided with the huge branch in front. After a violent tremor, a branch visible to the naked eye was cut directly in half by the sword point. Then he continued to rush forward unabated. Madara-sama has regained some of his strength. The fourth Mizukage standing behind Obito murmured. All along, he had always thought that Obito belonged to Uchiha Madara, but for some reasons, his strength had weakened. Melt. Escape. The art of melting monsters. At this moment, a soft drink sounded from the side. The fourth Mizukage's expression changed when he heard the sound, and then he kicked his feet on the ground and retreated quickly. Wow, a ball of crimson mucus appeared where he had just stood, and then a beautiful figure appeared in front of the fourth Mizukage's eyes. It was Terumi. Yakura, we have to make a complete end between us, Terumi murmured, her eyes full of determination at this time. For the sake of Kirigakure village and the people of the Kingdom of Water, I must defeat you today. Immediately, powerful energy burst out from Terumi body. Looking at the fourth Mizukage who had turned into a half-tailed beast in front of her, her eyes exuded endless coldness. Boom. Then she kicked her feet on the ground and quickly stepped forward to attack the fourth Mizukage. At this time, you can see a red energy flowing on the surface of Terumi's body, just like a ball of red mucus. This mucus adheres to the surface of her body, which not only helps her resist attacks from others, but also greatly improves the power of her physical skills. It was precisely because of this special mucus that she dared to engage in a physical battle with the fourth Mizukage, who was wrapped in a tailed beast's coat. Just as she was fighting the fourth Mizukage, a fierce battle was also taking place on another battlefield. Uchiha. Sasuke was breathing heavily, and at this time, you could see that there were 2 traces of blood that had not yet dried up under his eyes. This is Susanoo. It's really powerful. Sasuke looked up at the dark yellow skeleton that enveloped his body, his scarlet eyes full of excitement. Just now, after he saw Itachi use Susanoo, he also used the same power. At this time, 2 skeleton giants, one red and one yellow, looked at each other from a distance. Looking at Sasuke, who was surrounded by a dark yellow skeleton in front of him, a sharp light flashed in Itachi's eyes, and then under his control, the red skeleton rushed forward at high speed, while his body continued to stand in place. The red skeleton was extremely fast, and arrived in front of Sasuke in the blink of an eye. Without any hesitation, the skeleton raised its arms, and blasted straight forward. Boom. A loud noise sounded on the field, and 2 huge fists, one red and one yellow, were seen colliding together, and the huge impact caused a burst of smoke. That's all you can do, Uchiha Itachi. At this moment, Sasuke spoke with a sneer on his face. His eyes were full of disdain at this time. Having mastered Susanoo, he believed that his strength was already comparable to Itachi's, or even surpassed him. But he soon realized the gap between the two. Boom, boom, boom. On the field, violent vibrations appeared one after another, and Red Susanoo kept swinging his skeletal fist forward. At first, dark yellow Susanoo could barely parry, but soon the gap appeared. After being attacked continuously, cracks appeared on dark yellow Susan. Sasuke's face changed slightly when he saw this scene. He turned to look at Itachi in front of him, but Itachi's attention was not on him. He only saw Itachi turning his head to look at Kakashi. You really deserve to die, Uchiha Itachi. Feeling that he was being ignored, Sasuke let out a low growl, and then powerful eye power burst out from his body. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 The Powerful Amaterasu Flame. Rock Blast. Sasuke's hoarse voice came from the dark yellow Susanoo. Call out, call out, call out. In an instant, several sounds broke through the air, and several stones the size of human heads shot out from the ground, and then rushed towards Itachi at great speed. Itachi, who noticed the movement, turned his head slightly. His scarlet eyes looked extremely indifferent, and then he raised his foot and took a step forward. The next moment, swish, Itachi's figure disappeared instantly. This is? Sasuke looked surprised. Just when he was about to say something, a pair of scarlet eyes appeared in his sight. The next moment, he lost consciousness directly, and the dark yellow Susan also slowly dissipated. Tsukuyomi. Itachi slowly opened his mouth and spit out two words. Tsukuyomi, the genjutsu that comes with the main Jiki Sharingan. General illusions can only achieve the purpose of performing magic by disrupting people's senses such as vision and hearing, but Tsukuyomi is different. Tsukuyomi can directly pull the enemy's spirit into the Tsukuyomi space and then attack the enemy's illusions. In the Tsukuyomi space, all space, time, and quality are controlled by the will of the caster. No matter how powerful the body is, it is vulnerable to Tsukuyomi point at the same time. In the Tsukuyomi world, what a scream surrounded the enclosed space, and Sarutobi Yiming was seen being tied to a stone pillar by blood red iron chain, and at the same time, a silver long knife was inserted into his chest. Body point at this time, Sarutobi Yiming no longer had the arrogance he had just now, and now he only had endless fear. The main Gekyo Sharingan disappeared automatically, and even he could not maintain the ordinary 3 Nagatama Sharingan. The huge panic in his heart made him unable to control the chakra in his body. The Sharingan closed automatically. At this moment, a familiar figure appeared in his sight. This was a middle-aged woman with a kind appearance. What? At this time, when Uchiha Sasuke saw this person, he suddenly screamed, and his expression became extremely crazy. "You don't come here," he shouted with a look of horror on his face. In reality, Itachi looked at Zuosuke, who fainted on the ground indifferently. Suddenly, Itachi's pupils shrank. In his sight, a pale arm emerged from the ground, grabbed Zuosuke's ankle, and was about to pull his body down. The next moment, just when Itachi was about to step forward to intercept, a tender green sapling suddenly appeared at his feet. The next moment, the sapling began to grow wildly, and a moment later it grew into a huge tree. At this time, Itachi's figure turned into several crows and disappeared. Wooden ninjutsu, the disappeared Itachi appeared on a big tree not far away. Itachi looked down and saw that Zuosuke, who had just fainted on the ground, had disappeared. Only a pale figure stood there. It was Beisetsu. Itachi looked at Beisetsu with a slight frown. This was the first time he had seen such a creature. Haha, Uchiha Itachi is really an incredible genius. Beisetsu sneered. Call out, call out, call out. The next moment, he responded with several shurikens with detonating charms attached. Boom, boom. After a violent explosion, the figures of Itachi and Beisetsu disappeared here at the same time. Swish. A figure appeared between the 4th Mizukage and Terumi Mei, who were fighting fiercely. It was Itachi. Regarding the appearance of the person in front of him, the 4th Mizukage's heart rang with alarm bells. He was no stranger to Itachi, and they had had a battle in eye power before. Boom, boom. Fighting 1 against 2, the 4th Mizukage, knowing that he was outmatched, kicked his feet on the ground and retreated backwards as fast as he could. Itachi was unmoved by this, as if he didn't see him trying to escape, but his scholar eyes exuded endless coldness, and then the next moment, a powerful pupil power burst out from Itachi. At the same time, a group of people bloody tears fell from his eyes. Amaterasu. Itachi slowly opened his mouth and uttered 2 words, and then a black flame appeared on the body of the 4th Mizukage, who was running away. Black flame, what is this? Terumi Mei, who was about to chase the 4th Mizukage, was slightly startled when she saw this scene, but the next moment, a look of shock appeared on her face. The black flame attached to the 4th Mizukage's body expanded instantly. It was originally only the size of a palm, but it passed in an instant, and now it covered his entire back. Terumi Mei felt an extremely domineering energy in this black flame. Compared to her shock, the 4th Mizukage looked horrified at this time. At this time, he felt a strong burning sensation, and even the tailed beast code could not resist the feeling. The 4th Mizukage's expression turned ugly. He knew that, if he continued like this, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The next moment, the 4th Mizukage turned his head and looked to the other side, where Obito was having a fierce battle with Kakashi, with countless broken wood and violent arcs surrounding that area. The 4th Mizukage looked troubled. He knew that Obito was too busy to take care of himself at this time, and it was too late to rescue him. Just as he hesitated, a thick fog drifted in his direction, and almost instantly, he felt a scorching heat. Boiling escape, the art of Kao mist. Terumi Mei's voice sounded not far behind him, and she was still opening her mouth to spit out thick mist. Crack, crack. At this moment, a loud explosion came from the 4th Mizukage's body, and the black flames broke through the defense of the tailed beast's coat and fell directly on him. Almost instantly, a large burn appeared on his body. Ugh. The fourth Mizukage looked up to the sky and roared, and then his body began to collide violently, visible to the naked eye. After just a few seconds, the fourth Mizukage's body disappeared, and a giant beast appeared in front of him instead. The giant beast is surrounded by a hard carapace covered with countless spikes. It looks like a giant turtle, with 3 huge tails growing behind it. 3 tails. Isafu. Terumi Mei looked at the giant beast in front of her with a solemn expression. Roar. Sanwui roared, and then a powerful energy burst out from his body. It's still burning. Suddenly, Terumi Mei let out an exclamation, and her eyes fell on the back of the 3 tails, where a black flame was burning, which was the flame of Amaterasu. Even the 4th Mizukage, who had completely transformed into a tailed beast, was still unable to escape the burning flames of Amaterasu. Even now that his size had become larger, the black flame spread faster in no time. It was crawling all over Sanwui's back. At this time, you can see that the back of the 3 tails is full of black flames, and there is even a burning smell coming from it. Chapter 225 The Death of the 4th Mizukage. Roar. On the field, the 3 tails, which were being burned by the flames of Amaterasu, let out a roar of pain, and their huge bodies were trembling. Among the 9-tailed beasts, compared with the outstanding 8 tails, 9 tails, and 1 tail, the 3 tails are not strong. Even he himself is not very good at fighting. He only has nearly infinite chakra in his body. So at this time, he was helpless in the face of the never extinguishing Amaterasu flames. The black flames spread quickly and soon covered the entire body of the 3 tails. Terumi Mei on the side looked extremely shocked. When she turned around and landed on the figure who was several years younger than Kakashi, a trace of shock flashed in her eyes. In her opinion, Itachi's talent is no worse than Kakashi's. One day, when he fully grows up, he will be a figure not weaker than Kakashi. Konohagakure really lives up to its reputation as the leader of the 5 great ninja villages, Terumi Mei thought to herself. Just as she was thinking about this, the huge body of the 3 tails in front suddenly began to shrink, until finally, a figure wrapped in black flames appeared in front. It was the 4th Mizukage. Yakura, goodbye. The voice of the 3 tails flashed in the mind of the 4th Mizukage, and then one person and one beast lost consciousness at the same time. The 4th Mizukage was killed. After confirming that the 4th Mizukage in front of he had expired, Itachi's eyes trembled, and then his pupil power burst out. The visible flames still attached to the body of the 4th Mizukage slowly rose and flowed towards his eyes. After recovering all the black flames, Itachi left here in a flash. The fire that can burn a tailed beast to death is really shocking. Looking at Itachi's leaving figure, Terumi Mei murmured in his mouth, and then he turned to look at the 4th Mizukage in front of him. But Terumi Mei may not have noticed that, just after she turned her head, Itachi's body trembled slightly, as if he was about to fall to the ground, but then he recovered again. If you were standing in front of Itachi at this time, you might be able to see that his face looked extremely weak at this time, and 2 lines of blood that had not yet dried up appeared under his eyes, which made people feel very weird. There was also Itachi's eyes. The originally scarlet eyes had returned to normal, and a look of exhaustion appeared on Itachi's face. For Itachi, after using the abilities of the kaleidoscope one after another, his pupil power has long been exhausted, and even his mental power has been depleted. At this time, he only feels that his eyes are stinging, and he really wants to close his eyes and sleep now. Now is not the time. Itachi clenched his hands into fists, trying to wake himself up a little, and then he hurried in the direction of Kakashi in a flash. Terumi Mei here walked up to the body of the 4th Mizukage. Looking at the culprit who turned Karigakure village into the miserable state it is now, Terumi Mei's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and then he took a step forward and put the body into the scroll. In fact, there has always been a question in Terumi Mei's heart, that is, the 4th Mizukage is so cruel, and he may be controlled by others, but why can he still connect with the 3 tails in his body and become a perfect Jinchuriki? This has always been a question in Terumi Mei's mind, but now that the 4th Mizukage is dead and the 3 tails have disappeared with it, I'm afraid no one can give her this answer. In fact, what Terumi Mei didn't know was that Sanbi had always known in his heart that the 4th Mizukage was controlled by someone else, and Sanbi even knew who that person was. The one who controls the 4th Mizukage is Uchiha Madara, of course the real Uchiha Madara. Three Tails also notes that the masked man who calls himself Uchiha Madara is a fake. But even though he knew this, the Three Tails couldn't change anything. It was the pupil power of the main Gekkai Sharingan that controlled the fourth Mizukage, and the pupil power was the nemesis of the tailed beasts, so even though the Three Tails knew the truth, he did nothing. No point. The three-tailed man who could not change chose to obey. Even though he knew in his heart that many things the fourth Mizukage did were wrong, he did not object to the fourth Mizukage's actions and even became his accomplice. For the fourth Mizukage, who was successively controlled by Madara and Obito, his life was undoubtedly unfortunate and painful, but at the same time, he also had a trace of luck, and that was the Three Tails. No matter what he goes to do, Sanwei will go with him. Even if he is wrong, Sanwei will accompany him to the end. This kind of friendship is difficult to have even between people. But no matter what, from this moment on, the fourth generation of Mizukage has become a thing of the past, and Kirigakure village will usher in a new leader. At this moment, several figures flashed and appeared beside Terumi Mei. The leader was wearing a black eye patch covering one eye, and it was Ao. Terumi Mei-sama. Several people bowed and saluted Terumi Mei at the same time. Terumi Mei nodded slightly at this, and then a powerful aura burst out from her body. Then she spoke in a deep voice. The fourth generation Mizukage Goju Yagura died unexpectedly. Now we have summoned all the Chunin and Jounin in Kirigakure village. At the same time, we will notify the elders and ask them to come out to take charge of the overall situation. A smile appeared on King's face after hearing this, but thinking of the current situation, he knew it was not the time to relax yet, so he turned around and left with a few people, inform several elders and ask them to issue a unified statement to nominate Jounin Terumi Mei as the fifth Mizukage. Now that the fourth Mizukage is dead, I hope Kirigakure village can be quieter. King's face was cold, and he was giving out orders one after another. This saying is not unreasonable. Just like the Kirigakure village today, even the fourth generation Mizukage was cruel and bloodthirsty, and would even exterminate the clan at every turn, turning the Kirigakure village into a blood mist. But after all, he is the legitimate fourth Mizukage, and he still has the support of some people behind him. Now, although the fourth Mizukage has passed away, the people who supported him are still living in peace. For Mei Terumi, those people have become a huge hidden danger according to Terumi Mei. After she naturally becomes the fifth Mizukage, those people's minds will slowly be changed by her, and she believes she can do it. But obviously, King's thinking is much more mature than hers in this regard. He knows that some things must be done, and someone must stand up and do it. On the public side, he wanted Kirigakure village to develop better, and on the private side, he hoped that Mei Terumi could safely sit on the throne of the fifth Mizukage, so tonight he must clear up those opposing voices. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.